Okay, let's get started. Senate Bill 313. This is where we're supposed to, we start with the one line first?
Oh,
She's on the commission? Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Biran, Justice of the Supreme Court of Maryland. I have the honor of serving as chair of the Judiciary Special Committee on Judicial Compensation. We urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 313, which authorizes the General Assembly to provide an annual stipend to 37 judges who perform important administrative duties. We're grateful that the Judicial Compensation Commission agreed with our recommendation concerning these stipends, and you'll be hearing soon from Megan Casey, Esquire, Chair of the Commission. For now, I'd like to turn our presentation over to Judge Fred Hecker, who is Chair of the Conference of Circuit Court Judges, as well as the Circuit Administrative Judge for the 5th Judicial Circuit and the Administrative Judge for the Circuit Court for Carroll County.
Thank you, Justice Biran. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 313. This bill acknowledges work that is already being done and responsibility that is already being carried by administrative judges around the state. The bill addresses the important but underappreciated reality that administrative judges perform substantial duties beyond deciding cases, yet they receive no additional compensation for that work. Administrative judges are responsible for the daily operation of Maryland's courts. They manage budgets and personnel, coordinate with clerks, county governments, law enforcement, and service providers, assign judges, respond to emergencies, and ensure compliance with statewide policies. Just sitting here waiting for this hearing to start, I had to respond to several emails in my capacity as administrative judge just for my court. So administrative judges are ultimately accountable for court performance in their jurisdictions. These responsibilities are significant and continuous, and they are performed in addition to a full caseload, often outside of regular court hours. In effect, administrative judges serve as the chief executive officers of their courts while being paid the same as judges who do not carry these added duties. We suggest that Senate Bill 313 offers a modest remedy. It authorizes, rather than mandates, an annual stipend for judges who serve in these leadership roles. The authorization promotes fairness and stability in court leadership and helps to attract experienced judges to administrative service. It also supports continuity and recognizes the increased demands placed on those positions, particularly as the court faces staffing challenges, operational pressures, and heightened public expectations. So in closing, I will say that the fiscal impact of this bill is limited and defined. As Chief Justice Biran said, it affects 37 judges throughout the state, but the benefit is meaningful: more effective court administration, greater efficiency, and better service to the public. For those reasons, I urge a favorable report from your committee, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Megan Casey, online? Megan Casey online?
yes, I'm here. Can you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Megan Casey. I'm a lawyer and a partner at the law firm Gallagher LLP in Baltimore, but more importantly, I'm here today in my capacity as chair of the Judicial Compensation Commission to offer my support for Senate Bill 313. In particular, I'm here to share with you that after being presented by the judiciary with the same information that Justice Biran and Judge Hecker presented to the committee today, our 7-member volunteer commission voted unanimously to recommend that administrative judges be provided an annual stipend. In our commission's view, this additional compensation is not only appropriate, to compensate administrative judges for the significant additional work associated with their role, it is also incentivizing to encourage experienced and talented judges on our state court bench to be willing to take on these important leadership roles in the future. I ask that the committee issue a favorable report on Senate Bill 313. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for any of the witnesses on this bill? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one else to testify, correct?
Correct.
Right, yeah. Okay. What's that?
On the second page.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mr. Struer? Maryland Alliance for Justice Reform? Okay. Bill Strieber? Not Bill Strieber, no. Struer, S-T-E-U-R-E-R. Okay. All right, moving on to the next bill, 312. Claxton.
Good afternoon, Chair Gazzone. Thank you for having me and members of the committee. My name is Bruce Plaxton. I'm here in my capacity as chair of the Governor's Salary Commission, and with me is Tom Elder, who staffed the committee on behalf of DLS. And I'll be very brief in my remarks, but before I get into them, I want to point out what a pleasure it was to be appointed by the Senate President for the fourth time. The committee meets every 4 years, and I've had the privilege to chair it 3 times and work with really, really dedicated volunteers that took this very seriously in their studies. The Governor's Salary Commission just completed its 13th quadrennial study. It's required by the Maryland Constitution. The commission met twice to study the salary levels of the governor and lieutenant governor, and like previous commissions, also the salary levels for the other constitutional officers, the Attorney General, Comptroller, Treasurer, and the Secretary of State. We studied salary trends in Maryland. We saw salaries paid to similar officers in all 50 states, salaries paid to Maryland County execs, and changes to salaries of state employees over the past 2 decades. In considering salary levels for the upcoming term, the commission's considered factors noted previously, as well as other important concerns: the economic environment here in Maryland, inflation levels over the past 4 years, and projected inflation levels. The commission was careful to acknowledge the impact of any compensation increases on the state budget. We have recommended modest increases for the Attorney General, Comptroller, and Treasurer of $10,000 spread over 4 years, and actually none of the raises will go into effect for 2 years. The raise of $10,000 or $2,500 a year for 4 years is about a 1.5% raise, far less than CPI or any type of inflation. The Secretary of State's salary, we're also recommending an increase of $8,000 spread over the 4 years. All the members of the Governor's Salary Commission, thank you for the opportunity to present these findings. And I want to thank staff, as always, who were very, very helpful in preparing this report. The report is online. It's a full, detailed report. I think it's an interesting report if you're nerdy and want to get into the details. But I'm here for any questions, as is Mr. Elders.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. 118.
Good afternoon, Chairman. I'm speaking on behalf of Senator Benson. My name is Oluwatosin Afolabi, and I'll be speaking on behalf of SB 118. Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Senator Guy Zone and Vice Chairman Senator Jim Rosapep, and the esteemed members of the Budget and Tax Committee. SB 118 establishes a comprehensive Community Service Funding Act, a measure designed to strengthen Maryland's response to firearm violence while investing in prevention, recovery, and community stability. This legislation creates an excise tax on gross receipts coming from the retail of firearms, firearm accessories, and the ammunition by federally licensed firearm dealers in the state. The revenue generated will be directed towards programs that support violence prevention, victim services, trauma care, and community support initiatives. Firearm violence continues to impact communities across Maryland. Addressing this challenge requires not only enforcement, but also sustained investments in prevention, intervention, and support services. SB 118 takes a balanced approach by ensuring that a portion of the revenue generated from the firearm-related sales is reinvested into programs that strengthen community safety and provide meaningful resources to those affected by violence. Under this legislation, revenue from the tax will support several critical programs, including the Maryland Violence Intervention and Prevention Program Fund, the Center of Firearm Violence Prevention within the Maryland Department of Health, the Coordinated Community Supports Partnership Fund, and the Survivors of Homicide Victim Grant Program. Additional funding will also support trauma physician services and the R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, which provide life-saving care to victims of violence and serious injuries. We need to uplift our institutions by directing resources towards prevention, intervention, and trauma response. SB 118 strengthens Maryland's ability to respond comprehensively to firearm violence. These investments help to ensure that communities have access to programs that reduce violence, support families and survivors, and provide critical services to the individuals impacted by unfortunate and traumatic events. Importantly, this bill clears reporting and administrative provisions to ensure transparency and accountability in the collection and distribution of these funds. The goal is to ensure that the revenue generated is used effectively to support programs that improve public safety and community well-being across the state. SB 118 represents a thoughtful and responsible investment in the safety and stability of Maryland communities by supporting prevention programs, victim services, and trauma care. This legislation helps to ensure that the great state of Maryland continues to prioritize both public safety and community resistance for all. Thus, I urge a favorable report on SB 118, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Questions for the witness? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to shift a little bit. I think I'm going to take mine 762 because I'm going to have to step out for a few minutes. No, I'll get somebody else. I'll get somebody. I'll get Zucker, Edelman. Do I have my panel? Yep, come on up. 762. The committee knows we have a racetrack facility renewal account that we've used for a lot of different things for Pimlico. There's different sides of it. There's a standard bred side and a in that standard bred side, that's what this relates to. And basically, the bottom line is there are just a couple things it does. It makes a matching fund that is currently, it is a matching fund. This will make it optional. It does creates a 10-year live racing commitment if no match is provided. It establishes a pro rata recapture of the funds, and it maintains a minimum live day racing requirements. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to let my panel take it over.
Thank you, Chairman. And members of the committee, my name is Bobby Jones. I'm the general manager of Ocean Downs Racetrack and Casino located on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. We're in favor today of Senate Bill 762. I'll keep it simple. Racetracks are big. A lot of them have aged, and they're very expensive for upkeep. And the current matching fund requirement can delay us making those improvements that we need. This bill allows funds that are already set aside for the racetrack renewal without an upfront hurdle, while protecting the state's interests through live racing commitments. Recapturing the provisions of these commitments are met. Racetracks are economic anchors within our communities and in the state of Maryland. Live racing supports restaurants, local hotels, tourism in the state, retail shops, and other providers. Beyond that, racing also supports hundreds of jobs from breeders, trainers, veterinarians, farriers, and feeding supplies. When the facilities fall behind, attendance declines, and the entire community can feel that. This keeps our safeguards in place while giving the flexibility to reinvestment responsibly and keeping racing strong. So respectfully, we hope that you will have a favorable report, and thank you.
My turn.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Senator Gazzoni and members of this committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Robert Lillis, and though I am a Maryland Racing Commissioner, let it be known that I am testifying as a citizen of this great state of Maryland. I've been employed in many different capacities of the horse racing industry for well over 50 years. I believe 762 is a good bill, as it will help standardbred racetracks in much need of renovations. Standardbred horses is very important to the Maryland economy because when 10 horses with drivers and sulkies run around in a circle, an entire standardbred industry flourishes. Maryland supports standardbred horses supports 3,000 jobs and provides $200 million to the state's economy. The direct impact also triggers $70 million in added value and about another 700 jobs from indirect and rippling effects. Harness racing is also supports tens of thousands of acres of green space and farmland to grow crops where horses graze and train and grow the agribusiness. A lot of these jobs are from mom and pop stables where their sons and daughters have been raised to be the Maryland's fine horsemen. And these horsemen very much depend on this for their livelihood. The Maryland Racing Commission has also sent a letter of support for Senate Bill 762, and I find 762 in the very best interest of Maryland horse racing, and I am very hopeful that this committee can approve or support and give a favorable support to this 762. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Lisa Watts, and I'm the General Manager and Director of Operations of Rosecroft Raceway in Prince George's County. And I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 762. This bill really comes down to three simple points. Facilities. Rosecroft, like many racetracks, are large aging facilities that require ongoing investment to remain safe and competitive. Second is jobs. Live racing is an economic engine that supports jobs, agriculture, tourism, and state revenues. And third are the safeguards. Senate Bill 762 allows standardbred racetracks to use renewal funds already dedicated for improvements while still maintaining important state protections like live racing commitments and recapture provisions. It is important to note that these are funds already dedicated to standardbred racetrack renewal, not new spending. And this bill ensures those resources can be used efficiently to sustain and support Maryland standardbred racing. This bill simply provides the flexibility needed to reinvest responsibly and keep Maryland standardbred racing strong. I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 762, and I thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Senator Gazzone, thank you for having us. My name is Jonathan Roberts. I'm the president of the Cloverleaf Standardbred Owners Association. I represent nearly 500 members of our owners, trainers, and drivers who actually race the horses at our two racetracks, Ocean Downs and Rosecroft. Bill 762 represents a measure of stability for the horsemen in Maryland. It's an investment in our two racetracks to improve their facilities, and it also creates a measure of stability with the 10 years of agreement to race. We absolutely support this. The horsemen in Maryland support this, and we hope that the committee will issue a favorable report on Bill 762. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the panel? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to the next bill. Senator King, 467. Corey. Senator McCray.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, since 2000, as a part of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, the Maryland Child Care Credentialing Program has recognized individual child care providers who increase their qualifications beyond state licensing requirements. Over 8,600 early childhood educators participate in the program. Unfortunately, funding for the program was not included in the FY 2025 budget, and the program lapsed for 1 year. Funding was restored for FY 26, but was not included in the governor's FY 27 budget. The 1-year lapse in funding has significant consequences, as child care providers were unable to renew their credentials for more than a year, and providers were also unable to access promised state funding to help defray their costs for professional development. Even when funding resumed at the start of FY 26, the program still didn't get back up and running for nearly 7 months because MSDE had to go through the procurement process to get a new vendor to administer the application web portal. This disruption had a tangible negative impact on our child care workforce. The program is a practical tool for recruitment and retention in an industry that is operating on razor-thin margins, and disruption of the program created uncertainty and halted career advancements efforts for many. Senate Bill 467 will ensure that the Maryland Child Care Credential Program is protected from future funding interruptions by restoring mandated funding and maintaining continuity of operations. Our early childhood educators are an essential part of the economic infrastructure of our state, and passage of this legislation will ensure stability and predictability in a program that elevates our early childhood educators and in turn elevates the education of our youngest students. And I respectfully ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 467.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Chris Push, Executive Director of the Maryland State Child Care Association, representing over 5,500 in the early care and education workforce, and co-chair of the Office of Child Care Advisory Council. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 467, which extends foundational funding for the Maryland Child Care Credential Program, as this important workforce program is in statute but without funding for the future. The Maryland Child Care Credential Program is a proven workforce support for early care and education. More than almost 9,000 professionals in Maryland participate in the program, which recognizes providers who go above and beyond minimum licensing requirements, rewarding professional growth and quality benchmarks. The program is embedded in all other state quality initiatives, including public pre-K. Without sustained funding, we risk sending the message that professional development does not matter. Compensation becomes uncertain, and participation in quality initiatives declines. This leads to stagnation in quality improvements. This program is not just about quality, it's about supporting small businesses. Most child care programs operate on less than 1% profit margins. Staffing is their biggest cost, and tuition is almost entirely parent-funded. Child care costs exceed $20,000 a year in Maryland, while the average child care worker earns less than $27,000 annually. The credential program helps these small businesses attract and retain qualified staff, rewards professional growth, and stabilizes their workforce. Without it, turnover increases and sustainability weakens. There's also the equity and economic imperative. The child care workforce is primarily diverse women of color. Child care is the workforce behind the workforce, enabling parents to participate in Maryland's economy. Failure to invest in the workforce is both an economic risk and an equity failure. Suspending the credential program erodes trust and weakens the system Maryland has worked hard to build. So MSCCA urges the support for Senate Bill 467 to demonstrate Maryland values its early childhood workforce. Investing in credentialing is investing in quality, workforce stability, small businesses, sustainability, and economic growth. Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Ellie Colmers. I'm here on behalf of SEIU Local 500, who represents over 20,000 working people in Maryland, including child care providers, family child care educators, and early childhood professionals. We are asking for your support of SB 467. As child care providers, our work supports children's early learning, enables parents to work and contribute to Maryland's economy, and keeps our community strong. But this work is only possible when there is a stable, supported, and trained early childhood workforce. This bill may sound like just a funding requirement, but in reality, it anchors predictable state investment in professional development that supports quality care for children and stable livelihoods for providers like those in SEIU Local 500. And it's also one of the only programs that directly invests in the child care workforce. It's also worth emphasizing that the program is currently unfunded in the FY27 budget. But this would be for 28 and onwards. Childcare is a demanding, essential profession. Providers invest countless hours in training, curriculum planning, and ongoing education, often at their own expense. Ensuring this program continues to be funded at sustainable levels means we retain experienced and skilled providers, we improve quality for children and families, and we strengthen the childcare workforce pipeline. Providers in SEIU Local 500 know that without state backing for professional growth and training opportunities, many colleagues leave the field entirely, a loss for the families and the economy. We understand that state budgets require difficult choices, but prioritizing investment in Maryland's childcare workforce is not just compassionate, it's practical and necessary. Quality childcare makes it possible for parents to work, increases workforce participation, and contributes to Maryland's economic competitiveness. Therefore, we request a favorable report on Senate Bill 467.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Randy Albertson. I'm an MSDE-approved early childhood trainer and the owner of Innovations in Education, LLC. I'm here in strong support of SB 467. I want to start with what this looks like on the ground from a perspective of a trainer. When I'm in a child care program, I meet educators who are doing everything we ask of them, keeping children safe, building language and early literacy, supporting behavior, partnering with families, and meeting Maryland's requirements, often while covering staffing gaps and working long days with low pay. And then on top of that, we ask them to do more, take coursework, complete training hours, and move up a career lattice that makes our system stronger. The Maryland Child Care Credential Program is one of the few ways the state shows respect for that effort. It says, we see your skill, we value your growth, we will back it up. But that message only lands when the funding is stable. SB 467 matters because it extends foundational funding beginning in FY 2028 by requiring the governor to appropriate at least the fiscal year 2024 level each year going forward. That may sound like a budget detail, but to educators, it answers a simple question. Can I count on Maryland to keep its word? When funding is uncertain, people stop investing in the next credential level, not because they don't care, but because they can't risk time and money on a promise that might disappear. Programs lose one of their few practical tools for recruitment, retention, and ongoing professional learning. Childcare is a highly skilled workforce. Children deserve educators who are supported to keep learning, and educators deserve a system that treats professional growth as essential, not optional. SB 467 is a straightforward, responsible step that protects a program that works and honors the childcare community. I respectfully urge a favorable report. Thank you.
And thank you. Are there any questions of the committee? At this time, if we can call up more witnesses. Tracy Clay, Marcus Horn, Ruth, Caroline Reyes, Kayla Gould. Yes, ma'am.
Greetings. My name is Tracy Clay Miranda, and I serve as District Manager and Pre-K Expansion Administrator for the Hope Grows Child Development Centers in Montgomery County. I'm also a CDA Specialist and Adjunct Instructor in Early Child Education at Montgomery College, and I sit on boards like the Child Care Commission, or MSCCA, and I have dedicated part of my career in strengthening the Maryland's early childhood workforce. I'm here today to express my strong support for Senate Bill 467. The credentialing program has been a critical workforce support that encourages early child educators to pursue professional development, earn credentials, and remain in the field. However, in the recent years, funding instability has created significant challenges. When funding came to a halt, educators lost access to a very important design to help them advance in their careers and increase the quality of learning to the youngest learners. For many child care professionals whom already have a modest wage, these stipends incentives were often the difference between remaining in the profession or leaving it altogether. Last year, Hope Grows provided paid training for 107 of their members to gain the required 12 hours of training as a result of no funding for the $400 training voucher. Of those, 37 new staff members had no access to the credentialing system, and all of our team members had no access to the bonuses over the last years. We are fortunate to have the owner, Slima Horn, who made the training a priority, whereas other centers and family daycare providers did not have that opportunity. By placing this program in statute and protecting its funding moving forward, Maryland sends a clear message that early child educators matter and their professional growth is a priority. Support the educators that support to the workforce and to the youngest citizens that one day may sit at your seat and make decisions that make a difference for others. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Marcus Horn. I'm a teacher at Hope Grows Child Development Center in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I am currently in the MCPS Pre-K Expansion. When I first joined the credentialing program, I was in high school. I was in the 11th grade. Throughout my high school years, I did various trainings, and I moved up to credentialing level 3. Throughout those years, I received funds to purchase more trainings, and I was able to further progress my career pathway. However, once I got to college, that grant was paused due to a lack of funds. I began paying out of pocket for school while still trying to advance my educational career, and I was still paying for trainings now because I was not getting the bonus from Maryland. Some things that I would personally gain if credentialing were to open back up is, for number one, I would receive funds to continue furthering my career towards the pre-K expansion, as well as moving into a management position. I will feel the support I once felt when joining the educational pathway. That is why I fell in love with being an educator. I would be able to provide the high quality care that I always have, but it would exceed and give me an incentive to stay in the program, because as of right now, as a teacher, a young educator, it is hard to feel drawn in to a program, into a working field that as of right now has not shown the same support back to a young educator like myself. Getting benefits from the state keeps young educators like myself in the educational field, all while contributing to the next generation of people like Ms. Tracy Clay had just mentioned that could be in the same seats you guys sit in. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. My name is Carolina Reyes. I'm the owner and director of Arco Iris Bilingual Children's Center. I just want to say thank you, actually, for listening. You know, we take some time from our jobs to be here, to be heard from you. And the fact that you are taking the time to listen to us, it says a lot about, you know, your job. As a director owner, I work with families across these counties. I serve 3 different counties, Prince George County, Anne Arundel County, and Howard County. I'm here today to strongly support the Senate Bill 467, which extends funding for the family child care credential. As a child care director and a small business owner, I see every day how essential this program is for the professional growth and stability of our child care workforce. The credential program recognizes educators who go beyond the basic license requirements, those who continue their education, completing professional development, and commit the improvement of quality care and provide for their own children. In my program, continuous learning is not optional. It's part of our culture. Many of our teachers work incredibly hard, and they complete trainings and advance in their credential system. So we need to have the support for this credential. This is a great opportunity to show the early childhood community working in childcare, either if it's family childcare center, that their value, that what they are doing for the base of education, it matters. And what great opportunity you have to be able to support this field so that they can be recognized. High-quality early childhood education depends on a strong, stable, and well-prepared workforce. Extending funding for the Maryland Child Care Credential Program is an investment in the workforce and in the children and families who depend on us. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Hello, my name is Kayla Lergin-Thurengel. I'm a school-age teacher at Hope Grows Child Development Center in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I'm speaking on behalf of Hope Grows as well as young educators like myself that are starting out in the ECE program statewide. I joined Hope Grows in February 2024, and I was encouraged to complete trainings to increase my professional standing in the Maryland Credentialing Program. However, when it was my time to move to that next step, the Maryland Credentialing Program was paused due to lack of funds. Since then, I've had to pay out of pocket for all of my trainings to work in compliance with Maryland's licensing expectations, as well as furthering my knowledge and education and working towards my bachelor degree at Hood College, in which I'm majoring in early childhood education as well. If the credentialing program were to open back up, I would be able to continue my educational career with the support of the state, and I would be able to join the credentialing program and better standing my career itself. I can focus on paying for my school as I enter my senior year of college and not have to choose between my education and career. And as a young educator in the expanding field of education, the support system and benefits of the Maryland Credentialing Program would keep young teachers like myself drawn to the ECE programs. Thank you so much for listening to my testimony.
And thank you. And seeing no questions, Kayla, I did want to just make sure to say just best of luck and continue greatness with your higher educational goals.
Thank you.
Colleagues, we do have one virtual witness. We want to give her the opportunity to present. Ms. Ruby Daniels.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. My name is Ruby Daniels. I'm a family child care provider in Howard County for over 30 years and the president of the Maryland State Family Child Care Association, representing over 4,000 family child care providers in Maryland. I'm here in strong support of Senate Bill 467 and to ask that you continue funding the Child Care Credential Program. This program supports the early childhood workforce by helping reimburse the costs of professional training and conference fees. Many early childhood educators, also known as family child care providers, including myself, rely on this program to continue growing professionally. Every day, family child care providers make it possible for Maryland's working families to go to work knowing their children are safe, supported, and learning. Family child care providers are also small business owners. Many of us work alone in our homes and operate on a very tight budget. Professional development is not optional. It is essential if you want to maintain high-quality early learning environments for our youngest children. In FY25, when Child Care Credential was not funded, many home-based early childhood educators struggled to pay for professional development. Providers rely on the $400 training voucher, which can be used directly for conferences and training or to reimburse related expenses. These conference and trainings are more than just classes. They provide resources, updated information, and opportunities for peer-to-peer networking and mentoring. Many family childcare providers work in isolation. So these events help us stay connected, supported, and informed. The program was restarted in FY26, and we are grateful for that. But maintaining this program consistently is vital as Maryland continues to push for higher quality in early childhood education, something we all agree is important because our children's early learning truly matters. Supporting the Family Child Care Credential Program helps educators continue learning, improving their programs, and providing stronger early learning environments for Maryland children. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
And thank you, Ms. Daniels. And seeing no further questions, just want to thank each and every one of you all for your advocacy and what you're doing on behalf of not just yourselves, but more importantly, all Marylanders. Colleagues, at this time, we're going to go to Senate Bill 708. Is he out there? Okay. Senator Wall Striker, Senate Bill 652. He is out there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be okay to bring my panel up?
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My final time in front of Budget and Taxation, where I am not often this term, and I appreciate your time today. So, ladies and gentlemen, illegal gambling in Maryland is an incredible scourge. And it's a scourge for four reasons, four very distinct reasons. And I want to walk through each of those reasons and show you why Senate Bill 652 is so important. Illegal gambling is a scourge because it reduces our state revenue. As you know, over the past number of years, we've come to rely on revenue from casinos and sports gambling. This is critical revenue. If you live in the center or on the political left, this is important revenue because it allows us, as you guys know best, to invest in things we care about like education and making up for some of the things that are happening at the federal level, including SNAP, Medicaid funding, and developmental disabilities funding. If you live on the political right and are philosophically opposed to increasing taxes, well, then casino revenue through legal gambling allows us to help keep our tax rate low to benefit our constituents. This revenue is critical. Illegal gambling reduces our revenue for the things we care about in our legislative districts. Illegal gambling is a scourge for a second reason. Our brick and mortar casinos have workers that are incredible union workers, that make union wages, that provide for their families. And this is an incredible opportunity. Union wages are middle-class wages. It allows folks to have health care, to have real retirement, and you're going to hear more about that in an unrelated bill later today. But our union men and union women work hard, and by allowing illegal gambling in Maryland, that reduces the number of union jobs and union pay in our state. Illegal gambling is a scourge for a third reason. All of our regulated gambling comes under the purview of the protections that we provide for problem gambling. And so they are legally required and often kind of morally obligated to provide the phone number and website for problem gambling, and they fund all of the services that come along with the problem gambling structure that this committee has created. Illegal gambling does not have those protections. It doesn't have the safety net that we have built in for our regulated gambling. And lastly, the fourth reason that illegal gambling is a scourge is because there's no consumer protection associated with it. And so this space, as you might imagine, because it's illegal, is filled with not only offshore operators, but just scam operators, people who are willing to scam money from your constituents and mine, people whose wagering is not legitimate. And so if you are scammed by an illegal gambling site, an illegal sweepstakes casino, any type of illegal gambling, you don't have any recourse to get that money back. In the regulated market, if, let's say it's sports gambling, let's say you differ with a decision made by FanDuel, you have the opportunity under the current structure to appeal that decision making, and you've got an entire structure at your behest. Illegal gambling has no consumer protections associated with it. And so what Senate Bill 652 does is provide a structure by which the Attorney General and other prosecutors in our state can hold illegal gambling sites accountable, including not immediately jumping in with criminal prosecution, but starting with a cease and desist letter and then escalating from there. Importantly, Senate Bill 652 doesn't just deal with the illegal casinos and the sweepstakes casinos, which are also illegal, but the entire ecosystem that surrounds them. None of this stuff could exist offshore, onshore, wherever, without a group of very sketchy payment processors and third-party vendors that facilitate the illegal industry. The benefit of Senate Bill 652 is it takes not only the operators of the illegal casinos, but all the third-party vendors that surround them and allow this to take place. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I think we have a good structure in Senate Bill 652. You're going to hear from a lot of folks who are supporting that. I ask for a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Senator McCray, and members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. My name is Dr. Jennifer Beskett, and I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 652, and thank you, Senator Waldstreicher, for bringing this bill. This bill is important as it expands efforts to curtail illegal online gaming activities that proliferate Maryland's marketplace. It siphons funds away from the state. The Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency is the entity that operates the lottery and regulates gaming. The state currently prohibits the playing of online lottery, online slots, and table games that require players to pay to play, are based on chance, and provide the player the potential to receive cash or a reward that can be converted to cash. The agency has sent illegal online gaming operators notices to cease and desist offering their games in Maryland, and we have experienced a success rate of approximately 25% of these illegal operators stopping their offerings in the state. However, beyond these letters, the Commission is not authorized to take enforcement action against illegal gaming or its operators. Senate Bill 652 would expand enforcement options as it establishes a comprehensive enforcement structure implemented by the Office of the Attorney General through its Consumer Protection Division. It addresses jurisdictional and evidentiary obstacles, and it strengthens enforcement options through collaboration, adding consequences including fines, imprisonment, or both. Research from the American Gaming Association reveals that Americans wager a total of $673.6 billion annually with illegal and unregulated operators. And Maryland is not the only state taking action against these illegal operators. A list of the other states that have enacted or are pursuing legislation is included in our written testimony. Finally, the agency believes in responsible gambling, and March is Responsible Gambling Month. It is only appropriate that Senate Bill 652, which would strengthen enforcement efforts against illegal operators, is being heard in March. And with that, we ask for a favorable vote on Senate Bill 652.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Senator McCray, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Mark Stewart for the Cordish Companies and Live Casino. We are pleased to be here in support of Senate Bill 652, and we thank Senator Waldstreicher for his work on the important issue of combating illegal online gambling. We all recognize the reality and the problems of this illegal activity. The question is what to do about it. In August of 2025, Attorney General Brown and 49 attorneys general wrote the U.S. Department of Justice urging the use of website seizures, civil injunctions, asset forfeiture, and the blocking of financial transactions as new tools to disrupt illegal operators' access to U.S. consumers, payment systems, and digital infrastructure. Senate Bill 652 seizes on these same core strategies and implements them within Maryland's own enforcement framework. In doing so, Maryland would be joining the likes of New York, California, Nevada, New Jersey, and other states. And to be clear, this bill only applies to gambling where a player puts money in and has an opportunity to get money out. Senate Bill 652 expands the enforcement focus, as Senator Waldstreicher noted, beyond the illegal operators to the network of third-party service providers that enable the illegal operators to function. Cease and desist letters can be issued to marketing affiliates. Courts can order the taking down of websites for illegal operators, and financial transactions by payment processors can be blocked. All done with appropriate notice, and if there's a failure to act or comply, penalties and injunctive relief. As a former Deputy Attorney General in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I can tell you that these civil enforcement tools can work. Legalizing more online gambling will not stop or shrink this illegal market. Enforcement against illegal activities is sound policy, and we respectfully urge favorable report on Senate Bill 652.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for the record, Brad Rifkin on behalf of Caesars Horseshoe Baltimore here today in strong support of the bill. Thank you to the Vice Chair of JPR for his leadership on this. Any bill that curtails the proliferation of illegal online gaming is of paramount importance to not only residents of Maryland, but to your partners in the state, your licensed entities. I'd like to focus on one segment of the illegal online gaming industry in particular, which you all may be familiar with, and Senator Quarterman, I know with your bill last year. It's this illegal sweepstakes casinos found on page 3, line 22 to page 4, line 3. Illegal sweepstakes casinos are offering internet gaming right now in the state and doing so without any problem gaming oversight, without any regulatory regime, in the face of 75 cease and desist letters. And just recently, last week, the city of Baltimore filed an action in circuit court against several sweepstakes casinos, including one that's represented down here this year. I'd like to also touch on one of the arguments you may have heard from these sweepstakes casinos, which is, well, if you pass this bill, you are going to potentially take away certain social games like, I don't know, Candy Crush. What we've seen in other states that have passed very similar legislation is those social games still exist. So the idea that if you pass this legislation, somehow the social games that some folks play will go away is not true. This is about folks that are depositing money, playing internet casino games like roulette, blackjack, and others, and finding a way to either get money out or lose their money. So it's of paramount importance to this state to ensure that Maryland residents are protected, and for those reasons, we respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Caitlin McDonough on behalf of Hollywood Casino in Perryville and Cecil County. I'll share the panel's thanks to the sponsor, both here and in the House. Hollywood was Maryland's first casino, opening our doors in 2010. We employ about 350 employees in Cecil County, making us one of the largest employers. And we are one of the most highly regulated and highly taxed entities in the state. In fact, we pay the highest VLT tax to the tune of 58%, which makes the state a majority partner in our revenue shares. And I think as you've heard from the sponsor and from the other panelists, we want to make sure that anyone acting in this space is acting within licensure, within the regulation of the agency, and that the state, is getting that revenue as per the original licensure scheme here in the state. So we add our support and appreciate a favorable consideration by the committee. Thank you.
Senator Quarterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you guys for bringing this bill. And Mr. Rifkin, I appreciate you bringing up the legislation of the past. Can you expand on that a little bit about the whole sweeps things? Like what is it? Is it like this Candy Crush thing we talk about? Try to help dispel some of I think the rumors and myths that are going around. What is that all about?
I appreciate the question because there's a lot of smokescreen and diversion away from reality. Sweepstakes casinos are offering games like roulette, blackjack, other casino-style games, and you go online and you deposit money, or sometimes you don't have to deposit money, and they give you tokens that you can convert into cash by playing. But the free games we're not worried about. It's when people are depositing their earned money onto a platform and getting a cash equivalent through a separate currency, and then using that cash equivalent to gamble. So to use multiple currency as a way to wash what they're doing, which is online gaming is what, something that we view as inappropriate. And frankly, you're going to hear a bill next or at some point later today about authorizing internet gaming. My client supports that, but those are through legal structures. And right now, there is no internet gaming authorized in the state of Maryland. So until that changes, these folks shouldn't be operating. And when it does, and if it does change, they can apply for a license like anybody else.
Sure. No, and I get that, obviously, the money in, money out thing, but what about like these other games you hear about that aren't, to me, they're not even relevant, but they keep being brought up in that conversation, like, oh, we're going to get rid of our, the Candy Crush, I'm not picking on them as an entity, but you hear about those and these other bottle games, this other stuff. Like, it's my understanding it's not going to affect any of that stuff, and I don't think this bill would either.
And 6 other, and I'll let Ms. Beskid, Dr. Beskid talk, but in 6 other states that have passed very similar legislation, particularly as it relates to sweeps, Candy Crush still exists.
Yeah.
It's still operating. So
no, appreciate that. Thank you.
Senator Quarterman, thank you for the question, again, for the bill last year. The agency and the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Commission have the ability to determine what is illegal and an illegal game in Maryland. And I think we've had lots of debates about Candy Crush over the past 2 years. The easiest way to say it is we have issued 89 cease and desist letters to illegal operators in the state. The operators of Candy Crush and other social games that do not meet the 3 criteria of pay to play, consideration and chance, and the opportunity to receive a cash reward. It's just not there, and so we have not issued any cease and desist letters to those operators.
Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
the clarification.
Thank you for the question.
Senator Jennings.
Thanks. So you piqued my interest with his question, and I guess it's those 3 thresholds. Last year, right before the Super Bowl, my 12-year-old son came to me and asked me who was going to win. And I forgot who was playing. I just remember the Eagles lost. And I told him who I thought. He goes, okay, and he was on his phone playing. And I said, why? And it turns out he was gambling his tokens for Roblox. Because there's companies that'll go out there, and what they do is kids can gamble their tokens for their games that, they get their parents to give them money so they can go buy, like they call it skins and other things for these games. And they're not exchanging cash. What they're doing is they're getting more tokens if they win, but if they lose, they give up their tokens. And then these third-party companies, I guess, are selling those tokens for on the third-party market. Would this affect that? Are you familiar with that by any chance, or have you heard about it?
Thank you for the question. I'm not familiar of the exchanging of tokens. When it converts to cash or a cash reward is when it meets the 3rd criteria. Roblox it's one of those ones that you do not have to pay to play.
Yeah.
There is no consideration, but when you then have the opportunity to make a wager of something that's a virtual, it's virtual. I won't say it's a currency because there's no value in this world.
My son wasn't gambling money. What happens is this third-party company that he's betting with, if they win, they get the tokens, and then what they can do is sell those tokens to other kids. It's a way of for them to get these tokens. So there's no money exchange for the kids. It's just an enterprising way of for some other organization to make money. And I was just curious if you'd heard about it, if this would affect it. And we don't have to go deep into it here, but just something you might want to look into.
If I can just quickly respond.
Sure.
One of the things that I've learned since coming to the agency in December of 2024, so not even 2 years ago, is that every time we introduce something, these illegal actors are finding a way to bypass that. So, one of the things that we did in speaking to Senator Quarterman about this bill this year is expanded the titles of these bills to make sure we're encompassing all of these players, these operators that keep coming in with new and innovative ways to get a hold of funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no further questions, we do have 2 more witnesses, Jessica Wellman and Evan Richards. Favorable or favorable with amendments? And anyone can go first.
Chair, committee members, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Campaign for Fair Gambling. My name is Jessica Wellman, and the Campaign for Fair Gambling aims to advance a politically bipartisan and scientifically evidence-based practice to enhance consumer protections across the gambling sector. We strive to raise awareness of gambling-related harm, ultimately doing all we can to prevent and reduce it. The campaign fully supports SB 652, a measure that will take tangible action against the unregulated market. You will hear quite a bit about the illegal and unregulated market this legislative session, but to date, this is the only piece of legislation that is actually going to do something to limit operation of these sites within the state. These unregulated sites lack oversight, leaving customers with nowhere to turn if something goes wrong. Operators are also not held to any sort of responsible gambling standard, so these products, which researchers say are 10 times more addictive than other forms of gambling, are marketed and peddled unchecked. Many states have already prohibited unregulated sweepstakes gambling, including New York and California. There are 11 additional states considering legislation this year. As the lottery noted, this is one of the single best weapons for a gambling regulator to have in order to work collaboratively and effectively with law enforcement to push these unregulated and unsafe sites out of the market. A 2024 report from monitoring platform YieldSec determined that unregulated operators controlled 74% of the U.S. online gambling marketplace, with nearly 10 unregulated sites running for every regulated site in operation. Each year, those numbers continue to grow. The latest iGaming report from Penn State University found that even though online casinos have been legal in Pennsylvania since 2019, the number of Pennsylvanians playing on unregulated sites is on the rise. In the past year, the rate of black market play jumped from 6% to 10%. If you really want to do something to address the number of Maryland residents gambling online, SB 652 is precisely the way to do that. We respectfully request a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Evan Richards, here on behalf of the Maryland Bankers Association. We're favorable with amendments on Senate Bill 652. We're fully supportive of the sponsor's intent here, but considering that the definition of financial transaction provider does bring in credit card issuers and financial institutions, we do have some concerns that there are a handful of provisions in this bill that will penalize our member institutions for unknowingly providing services to these illegal gambling operators. But first, I will share that it is illegal for banks to do business with illegal companies. It's under the Bank Secrecy Act. And that Maryland banks also must comply with the federal Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act, which mandates the implementation of risk-based policies and procedures reasonably defined to identify and block unlawful internet gambling transactions. It's all hosted under Regulation GG. So as we know, there are a handful of ways that these operators can try to mask payments. But moving to the bill in particular, two provisions that I'd like to highlight are 9-1F-07. It does say that a financial transaction provider shall be deemed to have constructive knowledge that an entity is engaged in illegal online gambling if the URL identified by the Attorney General is posted on their website, which again is another compliance burden for Maryland banks, another place they'd have to check. Basically, if the Attorney General or prosecutor comes forward and says, hey, this is illegal, and during our investigation, we've determined that you're providing services to this organization, a bank's going to stop because it's already federally illegal. They are going to be subject to a regulatory scrutiny if they do not stop providing these services. And also on page 12, this is section 10, the enforcement provision for financial transactions is missing knowingly from both D1 and D2. So this actually provides a scenario where company one decides to bank with or mask their payments. Bank one accepts them. Bank one is notified that they are accepting that, they stop doing it. Then company one masks another way, tries to get back into bank one. Bank One isn't able to detect that there's a problem, and the way the enforcement provision is here, they will be violating the cease and desist order and subject to monetary penalties. So just to make sure that everybody can comply with this. So, we're happy to continue to work with the bill sponsor, additional language. We are favorable with amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And seeing no questions, colleagues, this ends the bill hearing for Senate Bill 652. And at this time, we're going to do Senate Bill 946. Senator Roosevelt.
Hey.
How you doing, sir? Always good. You want to sit out of mine? I'm gonna sit where you tell me to sit. Committee members, Mr. Chair, for the record, Corey McCray, Senator for the 45th Legislative District, and I come to you in reference to Senate Bill 946, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 946 does a couple things. This bill strengthens the updates of the historical revitalization tax credit by revising key definitions, including qualified rehabilitation expenditures and substantial rehabilitation. The bill extends the time frame for certain eligible expenditures. The bill will remove certain exclusions for projects funded or reimbursed by certain state or local services. The bill establishes application priorities, Mr. Chair, and by encouraging the restoration or reuse of historic properties, this bill helps attract tourism, create jobs, and enhance overall character and its aesthetics of communities. I have two phenomenal panelists that has done a number of different developments. I had Mr. Gary Rodwell, and I also had Bill Struver, my friend Bill Struver, with me to elaborate in reference to why we should be passing Senate Bill 946.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you, Senator. I am Dr. Gary Rodwell, and I have been doing development in Baltimore City neighborhoods for over 40 years. I come before you to urge passage of Senate Bill 946. Passage of this bill will aid in the development of vacant buildings, which create blight and safety issues in many neighborhoods. Combining state tax credits with other state resources, as Bill 946 calls for, will assist in the development of these buildings and act as a growth strategy for these neighborhoods by bringing jobs, opportunities, and services to these communities. 10 years ago, I was among a group of neighborhood leaders who redeveloped a 30-year vacant building, the Hebrew Orphan Asylum, into a healthcare asset for the community. Currently, the Baltimore City Health Department is now 100% tenant in that building, and this is now a vibrant community asset. Today, I am working to develop historic buildings long left vacant and blighted in East Baltimore neighborhoods, the Pump House Food Hub. The early development success of these buildings have seen new commercial leases, tremendous private sector reinvestment, and blight removal. In conclusion, then, as with the HOA, and now, as with the Baltimore Food Hub and Pump House, in both East and West Baltimore, a bill with the provisions of Senate Bill 946 is a smart growth strategy for Maryland's neighborhoods to repurpose historic buildings and revitalize spirit and economic strength into struggling neighborhoods. Bill?
Great. Thank you, Gary. So I guess I'm the older guy. So I've been 52 years working away at you're only 40. So my company has successfully redeveloped over 17 million square feet of fallen down old buildings across Maryland and the U.S. Fenway Park in Boston, American Tobacco in Durham, the OG campus, Fort Wayne, and a ton of stuff in Maryland from the Packing House in Cambridge to the FSK apartments in Frederick. Hugely impactful projects, and arguably, fixing up an old building, it has a spiritual power to it in terms of catalyzing, energizing reinvestment in distressed downtowns and neighborhoods. So we're excited to be a part of that. As the Senator describes, Senate Bill 946 fixes some inefficiencies in Maryland State Historic Tax Credits. which allows the combination of state funds with state credits to make it more impactful. Couple bright spots in a terrible time of federal funding. Federal historic tax credits are unlimited at 20% of projects' cost and have strong bipartisan support. New market tax credits, amazingly, not only survived, but got made permanent in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they're 20% of project costs. So add the state historic credits. These are the biggest source of funds to make these impactful projects move forward that are being crippled by high costs, weak real estate market, almost non-existent commercial real estate financing. Maryland's way behind competitive states. Virginia, state historic credits have no cap. North Carolina has 40% uncapped historic credits for their mills. Texas, uncapped. Preservation Maryland did a study to show the bang for the buck of the state's investment. $5 of tax revenues generated for every dollar of state historic tax credit. So as described by Gary, a terrific investment in rebuilding our neighborhoods, creating jobs, business, essential community services, and it's a way to level the economic playing field with our competitive states. So I encourage you to support this bill, which I think has no physical note to it because it just makes a good program better.
Thank you. Are there questions from members of the committee? Thank you all very, very much. That ends the hearing on.
Is there anybody else testify?
Senator Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and Committee. For the record, Senator John R. A. Salling, presenting Senate Bill 980. As a veteran, I know the sacrifice of our men and women that have served in our country in a uniform and for our freedoms. That means making sure that they can afford to stay in our community and those that fought and protected can come home. And we need to make it in a way where they'll stay here in Maryland, because right now we have a lot of veterans leaving our state. 980 will expand the property tax credit for a dwelling home of a disabled veteran and their surviving spouse. It lowers the required disability rate from 50% for property tax to the credit to 70% instead of 75. And helping out more veterans, we are living with serious service connected disabilities. They qualify for meaningful relief. The bill will also allow veterans with disability ratings of 50% to 69% to receive a 25% property tax credit. But to make sure that we're helping our veterans who truly need it the most, the bill caps eligibility at a federal adjustment gross of $100,000 for those filing individual tax returns, and for joint, the $200,000 limit return. In addition, the credit applies to a veteran's primary residence and requires documentations such as their discharge certifications, which is a DD-214, or a medical discharge from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure that the benefit is properly administered. Unfortunately, this bill is simply changing some income limitations and disability rating percentages to establish better eligibility for this tax credit and ensure that it reaches the disabled veterans who need it the most. I'm hoping that we can get this bill passed, and thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 980. Thank you, and I am here for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And at this time, I'll see if Kevin Canali with MACO is here. Okay, seeing no questions, Mr. Senator, that ends the hearing. Senator Salling for Senate Bill 980. Colleagues, we're going to move over to Senate Bill 934. Senator Quarterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. colleagues, friends of the committee. For the record, Senator Paul Quarterman, representing District 2, Washington and Frederick counties. Senate Bill 934 seeks to reset the intention of our investment in Maryland public school facilities. Again, the intention here is to raise the funding goal to $550 million annually for school construction beginning fiscal year 2027. By raising the goal, Senate Bill 934 helps to ensure that the state can maintain a stable pipeline of projects through the capital improvement plan. Investing consistently in school construction is an investment in students, communities, and the long-term strength of Maryland's public education system. For those of us who are on capital, yesterday we heard from the IAC. Quite frankly, we could probably have Alex Donahue give his same presentation yesterday, and that would, null and void this, my speaking, so to speak. Alex was to be here, but I think he's over in the House right now testifying on the same bill. But the two big takeaways from that presentation, the IAC currently has $754 million in new requests, of which $622 million being the most urgent. The previous change of this intention was in 2019, it was $345 million. The intent was then raised to $400 million in 2020. And then in 2023 to present, it was raised to $450 million. So based on that trajectory alone, you're looking at probably should be raised at least $50 million. We went to $550 just obviously based on the need. But again, the main thing to remember, it's intent language. It's not mandated, but it is helpful to help signal some additional funding towards construction. So anyways, we thank you for your consideration, and we respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
And thank you, Senator Quarterman. Seeing no questions at this time, I would like to bring up the one witness, Timothy Meyer. Timothy Meyer. Senator Quarterman, seeing that there are no further witnesses and no further questions, this ends the bill hearing for Senate Bill 934. Colleagues, at this time, we are going to skip around to Senate Bill 987. Senator Lewis Young, are you ready? And if you wanted to bring up your panel.
Yes, please. I hope they're here.
It is.
Do you want to pop out while I'm testifying to let them know that we're up early? Thanks. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to promote a sensible approach to some of our state challenges. This legislation will require manufacturers that claim direct-to-consumer advertising as a federally tax-deductible expense to include that spending in taxable corporate income on their Maryland returns. It could allow the state to generate substantial revenue that could be put towards funding Medicaid operations and supporting the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange. The United States is only one of 2 countries that allow for direct-to-consumer advertising and its major businesses, with $14 billion spent on this marketing in 2023 alone. Pharmaceutical companies were first permitted to begin direct-to-consumer advertising in the United States in 1985, so you will hear later we've always done it, but we have not. I want to review some of Maryland's financial challenges going forward. The Maryland Department of Health estimates that the state could lose up to $2.7 billion in federal funding because of H.R. 1. Under H.R. 1, there will be new work requirements and 6-month redeterminations for adults who receive Medicaid through the Affordable Care Act expansion. As many as 175,000 Marylanders could lose coverage in the coming years due to the termination of federally enhanced premium tax credits. Maryland Medicaid will be required to make investments to account for increased eligibility requirements for enrollees. DLS has estimated that it will cost the state $20 million to administrate these new requirements in fiscal year 26, $50 million in 27, and $10 million in subsequent years. I want to address some of the profitability dynamics of the pharmaceutical industry. One of the most profitable industries in our country. They outperform almost all other S&P 500 sectors. Large drug manufacturers reported a median net income margin of 14% annually for about 18 years, about double that of all other public companies. Prescription drugs are significantly more expensive in the United States, primarily because we've only recently started to negotiate prices for a few of the most expensive drugs for a slight decrease from this monopolistic pricing power of big pharma. Drug companies claim that the high prices of their prescription drugs are due to the cost of innovation, but they spend an estimated 20 to 25% of their annual budgets on marketing and sales, frequently exceeding what they invest in research and development. In addition, self-enrichment practices such as stock buyouts, dividends, and exorbitant executive compensation can exceed investment in R&D by over 300%. These ads are potentially harmful, negatively impacting patient-provider relationships. A 2013 study found that a sample of prescription drug advertisements, 55% emphasized claims that were potentially misleading, and another 2% were actually false. Research shows that most ad dollars are directed towards drugs that are not necessarily the most effective or the safest option, but rather those that generate the highest profit margins. This legislation of not exempting corporate tax for advertising could generate $5 million for our Medicaid operations and give all subsequent revenues, which could exceed $20 million, to the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange to fund health insurance subsidy programs. In conclusion, tax breaks for direct-to-consumer advertising are inconsistent with making healthcare affordable. As we attempt to challenge excessive drug prices, expect to hear attempts from the opposition to insulate a highly profitable industry from popular, sensible measures. There is no connection between drug research and current pricing, which actually more accurately reflects what the market will bear. Thank you. Pass it on to my panel.
All right.
There you go.
All right, excellent. Chair Guzzoni, Vice Chair Rosa Pepe, and members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, including my own Senator Cory McCray, thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 987. Thanks to your leadership, Maryland created the Young Adult Subsidy Program, which for over 4 years has helped lower-income young adults ages 18 to 34 purchase health coverage. This premium assistance program has been a lifeline to thousands of young adults, including myself, who struggle to afford quality health insurance. Though I have 2 jobs working in a restaurant and doing HVAC installation, neither jobs offer health insurance, and I buy my health insurance from Maryland Health Connection. The state program has lowered my monthly premium significantly, reduced my deductible by thousands of dollars, and improved my access to health care greatly. Before this program, I was paying for an expensive plan that did not give me much coverage. I had a high deductible and was paying hundreds of dollars for visits to specialists. If I had needed to go to the emergency room or needed other expensive treatment, I would have been put into thousands of dollars of debt. Most importantly, the premium assistance provided me with preventative care for elevated cholesterol, which would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Now my health insurance coverage and that of millions of other Americans and tens of thousands of other Marylanders is under attack by the failure of the U.S. Congress to extend the federal enhanced premium assistance program, which expired at the end of 2025. Luckily, I live in Maryland, where the state-based subsidy program that you passed last year and Governor Moore signed into law makes up for this gap in my premium assistance. Unfortunately, this Maryland backup plan is only for 1 year. If Congress does not act this year to extend the enhanced premium assistance, which is very unlikely, and if you don't provide additional resources for the young adult and state-based subsidy programs, my premiums will skyrocket next year, and I will likely have to drop my health insurance coverage. SB 987 would eliminate tax deductions for direct-to-consumer advertisement by pharmaceutical manufacturers. Funds from this legislation above $5 million per year would go toward premium assistance. This would help ensure that myself and many others keep the benefits that we have enjoyed for the past 4 years. Easy access to affordable health care has made it possible for Marylanders to stay healthy and productive without fear of financial ruin from expensive medical bills. This law is not only important for the health and well-being of enrollees, but it has significant economic benefits for Maryland by providing affordable health care to young and low-income adults. We can help to reduce the overall cost of health care in the state. This will lead to a healthier workforce, reduce absenteeism, and increase productivity. I thank Senator Lewis Young for sponsoring this legislation. I urge a favorable report for SB 987.
First, just thank you for your advocacy. I heard you say my name, but I didn't hear you say your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Bobby Laughlin.
Bobby Laughlin.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity today to speak on behalf of Senate Bill 987. I'm Sarah Westrick, Advocacy Director for AARP Maryland, representing our 850,000 members age 50 and older. Maryland is facing serious fiscal pressure on its Medicare system due to federal H.R. 1 changes, and older adults are among the most vulnerable. As people approach retirement age, they experience higher rates of disability, greater health needs, and more difficulty maintaining steady coverage when administrative hurdles increase. Losing insurance at this stage of life is not only dangerous for their health, but it's far more costly for the state down the line. That's why we need creative, responsible solutions that protect coverage without putting new burdens on Maryland families. Senate Bill 987 does exactly that. It requires certain large pharmaceutical companies to add back the federal tax deduction they currently take for direct-to-consumer drug advertising. This approach would avoid taxing innovation or research and instead recaptures revenue from advertising expenses, costs that don't contribute to patient care. Crucially, Senate Bill 987 directs this revenue to two areas that directly help older Marylanders stay insured. Number one, Medicaid eligibility operations, ensuring people can navigate new requirements and keep their coverage. And number two, subsidies on the individual market, which are essential for adults ages 50 to 64 who face the highest premiums and have been hardest hit by the loss of enhanced federal tax credits. In this year of unprecedented challenges, this bill offers a smart, targeted way to stabilize coverage and protect Marylanders who need it most. For all of these reasons, AARP Maryland respectfully urges a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Allison Taylor. I'm here today on behalf of Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente is the nation's largest integrated health delivery system, meaning that Kaiser members get both their health coverage and their health care within the same company. Sort of in accordance with that, Kaiser is also the largest purchaser of prescription drugs outside of the Medicare program. Kaiser's pharmacy program is based on developing an evidence-based formulary where our physicians work together to determine which medications are placed on that formulary and to make sure that we offer the best value for our patients. Direct-to-consumer advocacy advertising is inconsistent with our practices and best practices in prescribing in general. I know this bill is not outlawing that practice, but we think there's great value in capturing the tax revenue that could be generated from that and using it for these affordability programs. So with that, we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vinnie DeMarco. I'm the president of the Maryland Healthcare for All Coalition. And like Bobby, I thank my senator, Acting Chair Cory McCray, and all of you for hearing us in strong support of Senate Bill 987. Thank you for all this committee and the General Assembly and Governor Moore have done to reduce the uninsured rate in Maryland from 13% to 6%. Expanding health care for over 400,000 people. As you know so well, that is under attack right now from a federal government that does not share our values of keeping people healthy. And the H.R. 1, which will try to kick people off Medicaid, and failure to expand the federal tax credits will mean lots of people being uninsured. Luckily, in Maryland, we're doing everything we can to mitigate these harms. And there is a program, as you heard from Bobby, that it helps people in Maryland keep their health insurance. That program is in place for this year and then will end. Without the money from this legislation, we don't know how people like Bobby will continue to have health insurance, which would hurt him and all of us by increasing uncompensated hospital care and all of our insurance premiums. In addition, the Medicaid program desperately needs additional money to fund navigators and other programs that can help people stay on Medicaid. Medicaid is still there, but the horrible obstacles put in by H.R. 1 have to be overcome. The money from this program is critical. And we think that Senator Lewis Young, thank you very much for putting this in, has put in a perfect way to make this happen. As you've heard, America is one of only two nations, America and New Zealand, that allow direct-to-consumer advertising by drug corporations. There is no reason for Marylanders to subsidize this. No reason to subsidize it. We should put care over commercials. And we believe if you pass Senate Bill 987, we will be able to keep people insured and stop subsidizing a practice that really shouldn't be happening. Thank you very much, and we hope you'll report out this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no questions at this time, Senator, there are a number of witnesses that we're going to start calling up. I see Paul Schwartz, Jamie DeMarco. Oh, okay, sorry about that. Senator, hold tight. Senator Hedelman does have a question.
Sorry. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the constitutionality of this? Are there any issues with regard to that? Thank you for that question. We did get an AG letter, and the AG said, my cross file asked for that letter, and the AG did say that he, I forgot if it was a male or female, so, but the letter we got said they believe that this is constitutional. Just looking to see if I can read. Okay, I'll just read one paragraph here. Under analogous Supreme Court precedent, this does not infringe upon any First Amendment rights or regulate any First Amendment activity by not allowing a tax deduction for expenses incurred from direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising. Let me just see. Then it cites a couple of relevant other opinions. The state is not required to subsidize or allow a tax deduction for advertising activities. Oh, and this is important too. Second, the state must show a substantial government interest in regulating the speech. And third, that the regulation directly advances that interest. And then they go on to say that given the nature of that bill, they do believe that there is a substantial government interest involved.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And just so I understand, are we only talking about television advertising here, or are we talking about print as well?
We're talking about all of it. The only exceptions are periodicals, like in professional journals.
Okay, but newspaper advertising is covered under your, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And colleagues, seeing no further questions, we're going to start calling up further witnesses. Paul Schwartz, Jamie DeMarco, Glenn Snyder, and Jesse Haviland. And whoever wants to start first.
I'll go. My name is Paul Schwartz. I am the Region Vice President of NARF, the National Active and Retired Federal Employees. And a few weeks back, I testified before this very committee in support of Senator Ron Watson's bill to give some tax relief for seniors to help them stay in Maryland. During my testimony, I pointed out that the following day, I was going to be testifying on a bill before the Ways and Means Committee that dealt with pharmaceutical industry getting a tax reduction for direct-to-consumer advertising. Here we are on the Senate version of the bill. And the thing I mentioned there and the thing I mentioned here is that I really think more than a question of taxation, it's a question of priorities. Today, over $1 billion is spent monthly on pharmaceutical advertising. Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with the great big story to tell. What I'm basically asking is that we take a look and maybe reinvest this money from a tax break for the pharmaceutical industry on their advertising and reinvest that money to lower healthcare costs, specifically pharmaceutical pricing, which is skyrocketing, and use that money for the citizens of Maryland and their health costs, rather than investing so much money in not just advertising, but stock buybacks, campaign contributions, and so on. So it's just a question, again, of priorities. Thank you, and I hope that you pass this bill.
Mr. Acting Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jamie DeMarco, and on behalf of the Maryland Nurses Association, we urge a favorable report on SB 987. When Marylanders lose access to their health coverage, when they lose quality, affordable health care, they forego early screening, early treatment, their condition or illness gets worse, and it's our members, the nurses in Maryland, who care for those patients when they come into the hospital with conditions that are much more expensive and much more difficult and taxing to care for and to treat. And the expense of that, especially if someone lacks any health care, gets passed on to all of us. So our health insurance premiums go up when people lose health care. We think that the sponsor has found an excellent way to find additional funding to get more Marylanders quality, affordable health care that will not only help put downward pressure on everybody's health care bills, it will also help our members who are the ones who are going to have to take care of patients with or without health insurance. Thank you, and we urge a favorable report.
Mr. Acting Chair and members of the Budget and Taxation Committee, my name is Jessie Haviland, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to the importance of SB 987. As you've heard, the U.S. is one of 2 nations who allow direct-to-consumer drug advertising. With pharmaceutical companies pouring over $14 billion into these ads annually, costs are often passed down to the public. SB 987 proposes to eliminate the state tax deduction for pharmaceutical advertising, redirecting those revenues towards supporting Marylanders as they navigate new federal obstacles to health care access under H.R. 1. I'm able to sit here today because of Medicaid. Medicaid saved my life. About a decade ago, I was a Medicaid recipient for almost 2 years while working as a part-time contractor. During that period, I went through the worst case of bronchitis of my life, and as an asthmatic, this was incredibly dangerous. Medicaid was the reason I was able to receive the life-saving care I desperately needed that would have quite literally bankrupted me had I had to pay out of pocket. The treatment I received under Medicaid prevented my bronchitis from turning into pneumonia, in turn keeping me out of the hospital. Reflecting back on my experience, I can't help but wonder if I would have lost my life-saving coverage when I needed it the most under the new work requirements, due to missing 3 weeks of work and being too sick to fill out burdensome paperwork. My experience shows that it could be easy for people to fall through the cracks and lose their health coverage under H.R. 1. SB 987 introduces a proactive solution to potential coverage gaps by dedicating $5 million annually to Medicaid eligibility operations. This funding ensures that the state has the resources necessary to keep eligible Marylanders enrolled despite new federal requirements. Please protect the progress that we as a state have made, expanding access to quality, affordable health care for all Marylanders. I urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Members of the committee, my name is Glenn Schneider, and I am the Chief Program Officer at the Horizon Foundation, our state's largest independent health foundation, and I'm here in support of Senate Bill 987. As you've heard, H.R. 1 passed by Congress, signed by the President, presents a major threat to the health and economic security of Marylanders, especially lower-income Marylanders. It's estimated about 130,000 state residents will lose their coverage. We have been convening Medicaid advocates from across the state since May of last year. We've been working with MDH staff, with the exchange, with fellow advocates, with the one goal of ensuring that our coordinated action works to keep people enrolled. More than 320,000 Medicaid enrollees will now need to go through a redetermination effort every 6 months. Half of these applications will likely be auto-redetermined, but the other half's applications are going to end up at your local health department for verification and determination. That's like having 1,600 full passenger jets lined up at 24 gates waiting to deplane, knowing full well that at least half of them are going to need some assistance, perhaps even complicated assistance. That's why we need $8 million to add local navigator and eligibility staff. Our state's health officers have been saying unequivocally to us that they don't have the staff nor the funding to be able to handle this new workload. Without this investment, we could have a major backup in determinations, and which could lead to more people losing their coverage. In my written testimony, I've included a letter from nearly 90 state and local groups that want $8 million for local navigators and eligibility staff. And while admittedly some of these groups are admittedly agnostic on the funding source, we are all united on the need for this investment. We need these investments in local health department staff. Senate Bill 987 is a good bill to facilitate this Medicaid enrollment and help residents afford private insurance. It's worthy of your support, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And seeing no questions, colleagues, at this time, I would ask if Ms. Lorraine Ericat and Ms. Sandra Connor, which is virtual, we'll pull her up while Ms. Lorraine is getting there.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lorraine Arikat. I'm the Senior Policy Analyst at 1199 SCIU. We're the largest healthcare workers union in the nation, representing 10,000 members in our region across the care continuum. We support SB 987 because at a time when our country is facing devastating healthcare cuts and funding deficits, this bill provides a common sense solution to protecting health coverage in our state. Our healthcare workers know firsthand the impacts. They are the ones that feel the burden of a broken healthcare system, especially now as patients lose healthcare coverage, receive delayed care, and return with serious complications to a hospital system that is understaffed and overburdened. Higher numbers of uninsured patients, together with the likely benefit cuts and lower payment rates for hospitals, nursing homes, and other health facilities, will ultimately lead to job cuts that impact healthcare workers and a lower quality of care that they can provide. This legislation can be transformational in protecting access to healthcare coverage and investing in our healthcare workforce. Big Pharma's advertising tax breaks cost taxpayers an estimate of $1 billion per year, money that would be much better spent expanding healthcare coverage and access rather than padding the pockets of these corporations. It's time that we start holding Big Pharma accountable and investing in lower healthcare costs for consumers. This legislation meets the moment and it ensures that we're investing in a healthier state that ensures Marylanders have healthcare coverage. For those reasons, 1199 SCIU urges a favorable report on SB 987. Thank you.
Ms. Connor.
Hi, my name is Reverend Dr. Sandra Connor, and thank you also very much for allowing me to be on this virtual platform. I'm representing the Baptist Ministers Night Conference of Baltimore Vicinity, where we have members of more than 200 persons representing various entities, including faith and business consumers throughout the state of Maryland. We're here to just simply let you know that SB 987 is indeed necessary for more reasons than one. One, we as faith leaders find that we are considered faithfully trusted leaders. People come to us because we are the ones who are supposed to more or less lead, guide, and direct them. We're the ones that they trust in more ways than one. We're the ones that have discovered that when faith and health comes together, they can, in fact, get well. Well, just want to let you all know that this bill, SB 987, is a way that they can get healthy, stay healthy, and have what they need. Right now, what we're hearing, because the high cost of premiums are going up, we're constantly hearing right now that their bills are going up in addition to everything else. I'm grateful for what the General Assembly has already done when we came up with the prescription drug affordability bill. That's helping some, because you all may know what the senior citizens and others went through just simply trying to maintain weighing whether or not they pay for social needs, rent, or whatever the case may be. This particular bill will help them in more ways than one to maintain their medical assistance that they need, help them stay into healthy conditions in states that they need to be in or places that they need to be in. We need to have SB 987 approved so that they might continue to do what they need to do, so that we might continue to have them be viable citizens within the state of Maryland. We need SB 987. We need to have the cost in such a way that they can afford it and that everybody can benefit. We benefit when everybody else does.
Thank you, Reverend Connor. And colleagues, we're going to go to the next virtual person, if we can, which is Sarah Carlin Smith.
Hi, thank you, Chairman. Hi, thank you, Chairman, Zone Vice Chair Pepe, and members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. My name is Sarah Carlin Smith. I'm a research director at Public Citizen, a nonprofit consumer advocacy organization that has more than 1 million members, including supporters throughout Maryland. We support SB 987, Maryland's proposal to eliminate the state's tax deduction for direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising, a move we estimate could generate nearly $24 million annually for the state to spend on healthcare. It is not in Maryland's best interest to subsidize prescription drug advertising activities. This is an industry that often finds ways to get out of U.S. taxes through exploiting loopholes and designating profits it makes in the U.S. offshore, at the same time charging U.S. patients far more than anywhere else in the world. As has already been mentioned, the U.S. is one of only 2 countries that allows direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising. These ads are viewed as an annoyance and can cause harm by driving up healthcare costs and compromising provider and patient relationships. Pharmaceutical advertising is associated with increased patient requests and prescriptions for higher cost drugs, even when more cost-effective options like generic drugs exist. Most pharma television advertising is spent on products with low therapeutic value to patients. And while the drug industry typically only advertises a fraction of its available medicines, advertised drugs contribute disproportionately to what the U.S. spends on drugs. The U.S. Government Accountability Office has found that the Medicare program and its beneficiaries spent more than half of its total Medicare Part B and D spending on advertised prescription drugs. In recent years, the drug industry has expanded. Thank you.
Please finish your thought.
Sure. In recent years, the drug industry has expanded its advertising tactics. Manufacturers are increasingly using advertising to connect patients with telehealth providers whom they fund and are likely to prescribe the pharma's medicine. The drug company then directly facilitates access to the medication, and these practices are raising new concerns about potentially inappropriate use of pharma advertisement to steer patients to high-cost drugs, which then impedes states like government's ability to lower drug costs and drug spending. Thank you.
And thank you. Colleagues, seeing no further questions from the proponents, at this time we're going to bring up the folks that are unfavorable. And please come up when I call your name. Kristen Parade, Josh White, Kelly Schultz, and Andrew Zirkle and Rebecca Snyder. And please, anyone that wants to go first.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Josh White on behalf of the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, or PhRMA. PhRMA's member companies are responsible for the vast majority of biopharmaceutical research and development in this country, investing hundreds of billions of dollars to discover, test, and bring new treatments and cures for patients. For more than 6 years, our companies have worked with the Maryland General Assembly and the Prescription Drug Affordability Board in a serious good faith effort to address affordability concerns while protecting patient access and continued innovation. But this bill takes us in a very different and concerning approach. Rather than focusing on affordability and access, this creates a punitive tax on a single industry. If enacted, Maryland will become the only state in the country to impose tax tied to pharmaceutical manufacturers' communications with patients about FDA-approved medicines. That raises several important concerns. First, the bill singles out one industry for unique treatment and imposes a tax tied to the content of communications about life-saving treatments. And then also, in its first paragraph, the Attorney General recently advised the legislature on this bill and, quote, presents a risk of violating the First Amendment. And courts have repeatedly struck down laws that single out specific industries or regulate speech in this manner. And that is why we believe this is a very great risk that Maryland will never actually collect on these taxes. For these reasons, we respectfully urge an unfavorable report.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Kristen Pardee, and I am with PhRMA. We respectfully oppose SB 987, tied to HB 484, which would selectively tax prescription drug direct-to-consumer advertising for the following reasons. First, today, DTC pharmaceutical advertising is treated like advertising in every other industry, which is as an ordinary and necessary business expense. Using the tax code to single out one type of advertising would penalize a core business function and send a troubling signal to employers and investors who are deciding where to locate and grow jobs. Targeted tax penalties discourage investment and threaten Maryland's competitiveness. Second, this bill raises serious constitutional concerns. Courts have made clear that government may not impose special conditions on speakers because of the content of their message. Denying drug manufacturers a deduction that remains available to all other advertisers risks placing an unconstitutional condition on the First Amendment protected speech. Finally, DTC advertising plays an important public health role. It raises awareness of diseases and treatment options and encourages patients, especially those with chronic, undiagnosed, or stigmatized conditions, to seek care and have informed conversations with their healthcare providers. And prescription drug advertising is one of the most heavily regulated forms of advertising in the country, under FDA oversight and required to be balanced, accurate, and to clearly communicate risks and benefits. For these reasons, we respectfully urge an unfavorable report on SB 987. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Rebecca Snyder. I'm the executive director of the Maryland Delaware DC Press Association. We are unfavorable on this bill with a really targeted space. Earlier, Senator Hedelman asked Senator Lewis Young about whether or not this would hit newspapers. It's our understanding the way the bill's written, periodicals and journals are newspapers because they're periodicals. And on the House side, when I talked to Delegate Ziegler, and I understand it's a different bill, that was her understanding as well. So what we proposed is that because many media buys are bundled with digital and print together, that the interpretation of that exemption covers newspapers, and we would suggest that you add their associated digital sites, just to recognize how those buys are made. So without that tweak, we would urge an unfavorable report and hope that you will adopt that amendment. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and for the record, Andrew Zirkle here on behalf of the Maryland Tech Council in respectful opposition to Senate Bill 987. I'd like to thank the chair and the whole of the committee for the opportunity to testify today. MTC represents over 850 life sciences and technology companies that power Maryland's innovation economy. We feel as though this bill would undermine Maryland's effort to compete to attract high-value businesses in this critical lighthouse sector. By applying what amounts to a new tax on a critical component of the business model of drug development and commercialization, we'll send a signal to the innovative companies that are developing these life-changing therapies that Maryland may not be the place for them to invest. The message sent by this bill would likely result in impacts across the industry, including to research and development, clinical trial operations, and manufacturing investments. This policy would be first in the nation and would work against the advantage that Maryland has in workforce and the advantage that we have in terms of our institutions like Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland, as well as our proximity to federal entities. And finally, it would work against investments such as the Bio Innovation Tax Credit and other investments made by the Maryland General Assembly and multiple administrations. So with all of that in mind, we would respectfully ask for you to oppose Senate Bill 987. Thank you.
Senator Hadelman.
Chair. And this is for anybody. Can you tell me what the industry spends on advertising versus what it spends on research?
I don't have exact numbers, but I will tell you that the number as far as percentages goes is that for every $5.7 billion spent on sales and marketing, I'm sorry, actually. I should say that the industry invests $5.7 billion in research and development for every dollar that is spent on sales and marketing. Keeping in mind that sales and marketing is a really general term in business, so that includes your sales force salaries, administrative things, travel, all sorts of those expenses. And then what we are talking about today, direct to consumer, is just a very small section of that.
Senator Lewis Young.
I want to ask a question relative to the last question. I'm wondering where you got your information, because my information, which was obtained through SEC filings, publicly available income and cash flow statements, and annual reports, claim that pharmaceutical companies spend an estimated 20 to 25% of their annual budgets on marketing and sales, which is frequently 3 times as much as they spend on R&D.
I would have to see that. That's simply not the information we have, and my COO actually testified before Congress just a few weeks on this, saying the same thing I did. But I think what you're hitting on is that confusing term of sales and marketing, which in business it includes a vast variety of business operating expenses, all of which are indirectly and directly tied to sales and marketing. It's not specifically what we're talking about, which is direct-to-consumer advertising, which will just be one segment of that.
Okay. Well, my question was the source, because actually the income and cash flow statements do break out direct-to-consumer advertising.
Okay, well, I would love to look at those. I mean, for this industry, we're one of the highest, if not the highest, industries in this country as far as investment in R&D. Our companies alone, in the last decade, have invested over $850 billion. We're looking at $270 billion a year for the industry alone, and so a significant portion of the industry's revenue every year goes back into research and development, which is our core goal.
Okay, so that was one company, correct?
No, that's all of that's pharma's companies, and then the larger number is just the industry as a whole, which is our industry, just the brand name pharmaceutical manufacturers.
Thank you.
Second bite at the apple, Senator Adelman.
To follow up on this line of questioning, because I'm curious about it. Because this bill does just deal with direct-to-consumer advertising, and you just said that's a very small percentage of your overall marketing budget. So I'm just wondering, in terms of the sky is falling prediction about this removal of this kind of tax credit that you're getting, what really the impact would be if we're just talking about a piece of a much larger budget as you described it.
Yeah, I mean, the impact is that we believe that it's a constitutional infringement on our our First Amendment rights. In addition, these are the things that companies look for when they're considering investing. And so any kind of policy that is punitive against one industry, singling them out, is obviously something the industry is really concerned about.
I hear you, but that wasn't exactly what my question was. And I mean, it sounds like there's vying AG opinions on that constitutional question. But I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. And seeing no further questions at this time, this is going to end the bill hearing for Senate Bill 987. Colleagues, I do think that we have Senator Zucker here. And at this time, we're going to ask Senator Zucker to present on Senate Bill 708, if that's okay. Yes, sir.
You and I sit here and Craig can sit here. He believes Senator Zucker's here. He wasn't sure.
I don't know.
Good afternoon, colleagues. For the record, Senator Craig Zucker here in support of Senate Bill 708. Mr. Chairman, I know that we're getting ready for decisions around the budget, so I know people are in and out, and then bill hearings. So appreciate the committee's flexibility, and it's good to be with this great panel. Colleagues, you might remember the state lottery carriers bill that we had last year. What I wanted to do first was talk about what the bill isn't, and then what the bill is. So what the bill isn't is you don't have a dasher going around getting lottery tickets. That's not what this bill is. Nor is this attack on small business or retailers. What this bill does do is it provides, I think, not only an economic booster shot to the Maryland state budget, but also the lottery agency, where we're going to have more people doing lottery. And as a result, that's going to help toward education and help toward the things that we hold very dear in the state of Maryland. So what's the mechanisms of this bill? What this bill does is allows someone, if they use an app, to have an official licensed, purchase a ticket through a Courier app, and then that person has to go to an official licensed lottery terminal and get the ticket. And then they would provide that information to the buyer. This is really, if you will, another tool in the toolbox for lottery, and it has Maryland catch up, because right now we're behind the curve on this, where 17 states are already utilizing this technology and the service, really, and Maryland is falling behind. And we haven't seen any impact on small businesses in these other jurisdictions, in the other states. As a matter of fact, what we've seen is we've seen money going to other states from Marylanders that we should be capturing, we should be capturing here. Colleagues, we're knee deep in budget discussions right now, and I know we have important decisions to be made, and we're looking for ways that don't increase taxes and don't increase fees, but ways where we can be competitive with other states. And this is one of those ways where we're providing an opportunity to utilize a Maryland agency when it comes to state lottery and recapturing some revenue, just creating other opportunities for people to utilize and access the state lottery. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but I'd pass it on to my panel, the panel that I'm so privileged to be joined with now.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Really appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 708. I know it feels like Senate Budget and Taxes had a long week and it's only Wednesday. I know you still have hard decisions again today. They're ahead of you today, the rest of this session. And from what I understand from where revenues are headed, you might have some really hard decisions up ahead in the fiscal 2028 budget. So that's really the whole point, Mr. Chairman, of Senate Bill 708, is to make those decisions easier for you. The bill would lead to very significant ongoing revenues by growing lottery sales without expanding gaming. So the Senator touched on it, but just a refresher for you, under this bill, a consumer would be allowed to place an order for a standard lottery ticket, a standard paper lottery ticket, using a licensed Courier Services mobile app or website. The courier has the order fulfilled using a standard lottery terminal at an affiliated retailer, uploads a digital copy of the ticket to the customer's account, and stores the ticket securely pending the drawing. If the customer wins, the courier processes the claim on the customer's behalf, credits the customer's account, unless it's a particularly big win, in which case the customer has to claim it in person so that they can claim it in person with state lottery. As a fiscal note, observe, Senators, this generates very significant revenue by attracting new customers to traditional lottery. And based on the experience we've seen in other states, we know that means couriers add to the pool and do not cannibalize sales from existing retailers. Let me give you a quote, Mr. Chairman. The data is pretty conclusive at this point. There is not a single state that has seen a sales decline in retail. Those are not my words. Those are not my clients' words, Mr. Chairman. Those are the words of the Connecticut lottery regulator. Not only will this not harm them, Mr. Chairman, it will bring into Maryland millions in modern free advertising that benefit those brick and mortar retailers. And my clients are eager to enter into partnerships with retailers to find mutual benefit, as they have in other states. And finally, this will create enough additional revenue that, should the committee think it's necessary, they could even use some of that money to restore lottery commissions. So we think this is a win-win-win-win for the state, win for players, hopefully lots of wins for players, and we think it's worthy of a favorable report. Mr. Chairman, Paul Prezioso from Jackpot.com is here at my request to provide some additional remarks.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Paul Prezioso, and I serve as the Vice President of Legal, Compliance, and Regulatory Affairs for Jackpot.com, a licensed lottery courier operating in multiple regulated states across the country. At a high level, SB 708 simply modernizes how lottery tickets can be purchased, placing courier operations under the oversight of the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency. Lottery courier services allow age-verified adults located within the state to order official lottery tickets through a secure website or mobile application. Those tickets are then physically purchased at a licensed lottery retailer, stored securely, and redeemed in accordance with state lottery rules. It is important to emphasize what this bill does not do. It does not create new lottery games. It does not authorize iLottery, and it does not bypass retailers. Instead, it creates a regulated delivery channel for games Maryland already offers, while preserving the retailer-centric model that exists today. The experience from other states is very clear. Lottery couriers grow the overall market and do not cannibalize retail sales. Couriers reach new and younger players who are less likely to purchase tickets at traditional retail locations, and that results in incremental ticket sales and additional revenue for the state. States such as New York and New Jersey have seen significant increases in lottery sales after authorizing couriers, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in additional ticket sales over time. Those ticket sales translate directly into more funding for important state priorities without costing the taxpayers anything. Just as importantly, SB 708 creates a strong regulatory framework with robust consumer protections. Courier platforms must use identity verification, geolocation technology, deposit and spend limits, and self-exclusion tools, all subject to oversight by the Maryland Lottery. Retailers also remain central to the system. Maryland would not be charting new territory here. 16 states and the District of Columbia already permit lottery courier services, demonstrating that this model can operate successfully under regulatory oversight. For these reasons, we believe SB 708 represents a thoughtful and responsible way to increase lottery revenue, protect consumers, and modernize lottery distribution in Maryland. Thank you.
And thank you, Senator Zucker. I just knew when he was given a quote, it was going to be a Corey McCray quote, but he caught me off guard. Colleagues, at this time, seeing no questions for those that are favorable, we'll move on to those that are unfavorable. And we'll ask Mr. Mike O'Halloran, Sarah Price, Steve Wise, and John Pica.
Good afternoon, Senator. I know you've got a long evening, so I can just go ahead and get started. For the record, my name is Mike O'Halloran. I'm here today representing the Mid-Atlantic Petroleum Distributors Association, which includes owners and operators of convenience stores that you all know and trust and hopefully shop at. Look, with all due respect to the proponents, and they're trying to frame this issue as a win-win-win for retailers, I find it, I guess, awkward that there are no retailers supporting this bill. And that is primarily because of the concern, the negative impact this would have on in-store sales. Look, not only are our members, do we generate revenue for education and the other worthy causes that lottery proceeds fund, but we also collect sales tax and motor fuel tax as well. This bill gives our lottery customers a reason not to visit us, not to grab a sandwich and snack, but just stay on their phone and perhaps use another app for those same purchases. So the point being is that if they can now have another avenue that does not include coming through our doors, increasing their basket value, that hurts convenience stores' bottom line. I know that the proponents also mentioned a quote from the Connecticut lottery director. Look, I certainly don't know the Connecticut lottery director, but I can tell by his position that he probably has a vested interest in making sure that the Connecticut lottery performs very well. But I'd also like to point out that I do not see the Maryland lottery coming out as favorable for this. And as far as the fiscal impact, I've heard very large, exorbitant numbers that have been shopped around by the supporters of this bill. The fiscal note, I believe, has it at around 31 million, I think, by FY 2031. Not that $31 million isn't a big number. It certainly is more money than I'll probably ever see in my day. But I will say I think this boils down to a policy question and not a fiscal one. And on that, we certainly hope that you would understand our concerns and move unfavorable on SB 708. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. John Pica on behalf of Royal Farms Stores. Royal Farms operates more than 180 stores in Maryland and employs more than 4,000 people. I think this bill, and I'll be real brief, I think the bill is too open-ended. It does not restrict the number of licenses that can be granted by the agency, nor does it prohibit, from the way I read the bill, any brick-and-mortar locations that might compete with existing retail stores or convenience stores. For those reasons, Royal Farms asked for an unfavorable report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and honorable committee members. Sarah Price on behalf of the Maryland Retailers Alliance. My colleagues have alluded to the concerns about the financial impact that this would have on small businesses in Maryland, on the lottery agents. I would like to quantify that a little bit. Lottery sales make up almost 10% of convenience store sales, and 95% of those purchases typically include other items purchased in the store. We have heard claims that allowing this would not have any cannibalization impact on the existing lottery agents because this is only going to appeal primarily to the younger generation who plays on their phones and is already not coming into our stores. But our concern is that in the long run, that is going to take each subsequent generation out of our stores. Once people are used to playing on their phone, once that is their outlet from a young age, they're not going to come in and try to purchase those items from us. And we do have concerns that this could dovetail with other issues in the future, which could also impact convenience and gas station sales, like the increase in interest in electric vehicles and the proliferation of chargers outside of gas station locations. So as we're seeing a lot of shifts in other policy areas that could impact our operations, we do feel that this is one place where the legislature could say, no, we're good. We would like to protect the small businesses in this case. And for that reason, we would urge an unfavorable. Thank you.
And thank you. Colleagues, seeing no further questions and no more witnesses, this ends the bill hearing for Senate Bill 70. Steve Wise? Okay.
It's Kirk McCauley, Senator.
Please.
I'll be quick and just make it a me too. I agree with their colleagues, what they just said. But there's 4,400 lottery ranges in Maryland. Most of them small business, probably 85% of them small business. And anyone that says additional sales is not going to affect them, I just don't believe that. No one else does either. And retailers are scared to death. This bill doesn't limit. A courier could come in and open up a warehouse, sell a couple Cokes or something out of it, and call it a convenience store, and put 20 lottery machines in there. It doesn't limit to that. And it says they physically buy a ticket. They get a ticket over iLottery. It's basically iLottery. When their customer gives them what they want, they signal a store. In some states, they have large convenience store groups sell their tickets for them. Some states, they operate their own agencies. So basically, this will hurt our 4,400 convenience stores in Maryland now who do a darn good job and really unfavorable report with us. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing no questions and no further witnesses, there are no further witnesses. This ends the bill hearing for Senate Bill 708. Senator Zucker, you're up again with Senate Bill 862.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, distinguished members of the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. For the record, Senator Craig Zucker here in support of Senate Bill 862. Colleagues, I believe March is Problem Gaming Month, and this is a bill that you all should be very familiar with. It puts a certain percentage into the Problem Gaming Fund. With all the work that we've done around table games and sports betting, this is an important step in the right direction for those that face and have addiction to gaming. We've passed this unanimously before, so I'd move for a favorable report at some point. I'll turn it over to the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ann Seacott, testifying today on behalf of the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, the Maryland chapter. We are very grateful to Senator Zucker for bringing this bill back again. We're grateful for you all for having passed this in the past. You all have found it appropriate in the past to make sure that there is a revenue stream for problem gambling each time gambling has been expanded. We did it with fee for video lottery machines, the slot machines. We did it for table gaming. We just neglected to do it when it came to sports wagering and fantasy competition online. So that's what this bill does. We direct 1% of the profits from fantasy competition and sports wagering operators to the Problem Gambling Fund. That is in the Behavioral Health Administration at the Health Department, and funds are awarded to a number of organizations, including the Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. Their work includes hiring peers who respond to help seekers, public education campaigns, and trainings. Currently, there are 7 certified peer recovery specialists employed by the center who respond to calls from help seekers across the state, helping 700 people at any given time. The state desperately needs additional funding to hire more peers. Second, the bill also requires the expansion of the prevalence studies conducted on gaming in Maryland. As we continue to expand ways that gaming is accessible, we really need to make sure we are tracking the trends and the data to ensure we are putting in then the right resources and targeting them appropriately. The industry makes billions of dollars. It's an important part of our economy. We just need to make sure that some of those profits go to addressing some of the problems that are created. So we ask for, again, your favorable report on the bill.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Acting Chair and members of the committee. I'm here to testify in support of Senate Bill 862. Some quick background information. My name is Michael Calamino. I'm a 69-year-old severe gambling addict in recovery. In 2002, I started a business from nothing and eventually turned it into $5 million in annual sales. A casino granted me $2 million credit line based on my net worth of $7 million at the time. And after my net losses exceeded that amount, my credit line remained open and I began drawing funds illegally from my business. All in all, I took millions from my clients and my company was recently sold in bankruptcy for less than 10 cents on the dollar. My actions harmed my clients, my employees, my business partners, not to mention the shame, humiliation, and hardship I've caused my family, especially my wife, to suffer. Fortunately, my family has not turned their backs on me, and their support, along with the grace of God, my addiction counselor, and the Maryland Center for Excellence, and a stay in a psychiatric ward have kept me from ending my life. The focus of this testimony is the Maryland Center for Excellence. The services and counseling that they provided and continue to provide me are key pieces in saving my life. The number of new calls that they receive regarding gambling addiction have increased dramatically. This increased workload has not affected the quality of their services. It is necessary that they continue to assist gambling addicts and to provide preventative information for the public. I urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 862. The Maryland Center for Excellence plays a vital part in dealing with the ever-increasing amount of problem gambling. Please help them help others. Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you for joining us today. Are there questions from members of the committee? Thank you. And we have some other witnesses. We have Kenneth Wilson, Mark Stewart, Heather Esteman, and Jessica Wellman. And then we have one virtual witness. And please proceed in whatever order you'd like to.
Hello, Budget and Taxation Committee, and we appreciate Senator Zucker for introducing this bill. My name is Heather Eshelman. I'm the Director of Operations at the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. So we are in full support of Senate Bill 862. So when fantasy competitions and sports betting were legalized, there was no additional funding. Our calls have skyrocketed. Our staff is exhausted, and we just need some more help. So we're here today. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about our helpline calls, too. Just in 1 year, they've increased quite a bit. Last year, we were seeing about 1 to 1.5 call average per day. Now we're receiving about 2 to 2.5 calls or texts per day for help. It's estimated that 5.7% of Maryland residents have a gambling disorder. So if you haven't seen our prevalence study, the 2024 version, there is an increase in problem gambling across our state. So that's of great concern to the center. Our request for school presentations has really increased. So we are now included in the health education curriculum across the state in high schools, which is amazing. But we are receiving an increase in calls from these schools to come in and do presentations and to help with curriculum development. So we could definitely use some more funding on the prevention side. And in addition, to combat the promotional ads from the industry, we could definitely use some more funding for public awareness. So we definitely need to educate Marylanders on the risk of gambling and also the resources for help. So I requested at this time a favorable report on Senate Bill 862. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hello, committee members. Jessica Wellman, again with the National Campaign for Fair Gambling. The campaign fully supports SB 862. Sound policy can only be achieved with relevant and recent data, and I am about to use your data to make some of those examples. 9 out of 10 adults in Maryland have gambled at least once in their lifetime, and more concerning, the number of adults with disordered gambling is rising from 4% in 2022 to 5.7% in 2024. Some groups are at higher risk. For example, men are more than twice as likely as women to experience disordered gambling. In Maryland, Black adults have the highest rate by race and ethnicity of disordered gambling at 10.4%, followed by Hispanic adults at 8.8%. Among those with disordered gambling, 52% are Black, 36% are white, 2% are Asian. We're also seeing that young adults, 18 to 24 years old, have a 6.9% rate of disordered gambling, and the data makes it clear that gambling-related harm is not evenly distributed. Some groups are much more vulnerable than others, underscoring the need for targeted evidence-based prevention and treatment. You'll hear a lot this session about the risk posed by unregulated and illegal gambling and highly addictive forms of play. SB 862 provides Maryland with the data tools necessary to understand the scope of problem gambling within the state and what would be necessary to address these issues. Accurate local prevalence data is essential to developing effective targeted interventions and problem gambling policies. By passing SB 862, Maryland would join other states that have invested in prevalence studies to inform evidence-based strategies for prevention and treatment. These studies have been crucial in shaping policies that protect vulnerable populations and communities from gambling-related harm. Allocating revenue from gaming to fund these programs ensures that the state has sustainable resources to prevent, identify, and treat problem gambling. This is a proactive approach that addresses gambling-related harm before it escalates. We appreciate a favorable report.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Ken Wolfson, and I'm a certified peer support specialist with the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling in support of Senate Bill 862. Hired in 2017, I am the very first problem gambling peer in the state of Maryland, and to correct NCADD, there's only 4 of us to handle the entire state of Maryland. 4. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from alcohol and gambling, and also, by the grace of God, I have over 32 years of recovery today. Very happy with that. For 9 years, I have worked on the front lines in Maryland using my lived experience to assist Marylanders caught in an endless cycle of gambling-related issues and consequences. Like so many of us, I have lived through the progression of gambling: fun with problems, and then all problems. So who better to speak on this subject than someone who has been there themselves? I am therefore uniquely qualified to speak on an experiential level on this subject. The framework of responsibility for so many of us growing up was simple and taught by our parents. Actions have consequences, do unto others. If you make a mess, you're responsible for cleaning it up. Responsibility for our actions is everything. Gambling, specifically sportsbook and fantasy sports operators in Maryland, have created a tidal wave of problems and human suffering that my department deals with daily. Heartbreaking fallout, leaving families devastated. And brick-and-mortar casinos have all accepted their responsibility and contribute their fair share. They are accountable. Therefore, it is common sense that sportsbook and fantasy sports operators be held both accountable and responsible for the cleanup from the human wreckage they create for us. Accountability and responsibility, 1%, is not asking a lot and is a reasonable and responsible, appropriate approach to addressing the problems they create. All too often, we receive endless calls from families torn apart: financial ruin, lies, betrayal, bankruptcy, divorce, criminal activity, physical abuse, and worse, many related to sportsbook sportsbook and fantasy sports. They have created a messy problem, and we are simply asking them to do their share in supporting the cleanup. I urge a favorable report on SB 862.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Mark Stewart with the Cordish Companies and Live Casino. Thank you, and thanks to Senator Zucker for his leadership on this issue. We support Senate Bill 862 and its call for a mobile gambling prevalence study and additional financial support for problem gambling. Online gambling is very different than traditional forms. It's 10 times more harmful, according to Harvard University, and there's been a 30% increase in the risk of addiction as per the National Problem Gambling Council. The Maryland Center has already seen the impacts from online sports betting, increased calls from 18 to 25-year-olds, increased calls from teachers, and 51% of online sports bettors falling into the category of disordered or at-risk gamblers. Maryland needs a comprehensive prevalence study dedicated to online gambling. Pennsylvania has one conducted by Penn State University. New Jersey has one conducted by Rutgers. Maryland needs comprehensive and granular data to shape policy. And all forms of gambling should support financially problem gambling efforts. We request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for members of the panel? Thank you very much. Do we have any other witnesses in the room to testify? I'm sorry, is there someone else to testify? Okay, let's go to our virtual witness.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Oliver Berry, appearing on behalf of the National Association Against iGaming in support of Senate Bill 862. As online gambling continues to expand across the country, states are only now beginning to understand its long-term public health impacts. The reality is that the data simply has not caught up with the rapid growth of gambling available through smartphones and other connected devices. Senate Bill 862 takes an important and responsible step by requiring the Maryland Department of Health to conduct prevalence studies on problem and pathological online gambling. This will give policymakers the evidence they need to better understand how online gambling is affecting Maryland families over time. The bill also improves transparency and accountability by requiring annual reporting on how the problem gambling fund is being used for treatment and prevention programs. Put simply, as gambling becomes increasingly accessible online, states have a responsibility to fully understand the public health consequences and ensure resources are reaching those who need help. Senate Bill 862 recognizes that responsible policymaking requires better data, stronger transparency, and a clear understanding of the real-world impacts of online gambling. For these reasons, we respectfully urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? That concludes the hearing on this bill. The next bill is Senator Zucker, Senate Bill 970.
Oh. Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm going to have Logan Mitchell presented for me.
Oh, great.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and distinguished members of the Budget and Taxation Committee. For the record, my name is Logan Mitchell, and it is my pleasure to testify today on behalf of Senator Zucker in support of SB 970. Senate Bill 970 is a consumer protection bill that will require sports wagering licensee or sports wagering operators that advertise in the state to contract with a licensed independent evaluator to evaluate and rate the sports wagering licensee's sports wagering content, experts, influencers, and content partners. Independent evaluators would not only protect consumers, but also help distinguish legitimate from illegal platforms. SB 970 is the same bill that was passed by the Senate in 2025 and previously co-sponsored by the Senate President, and has been reintroduced this year with the amendments adopted by this committee. This bill is contingent on the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission issuing licenses to at least 3 independent evaluators so as to ensure there are multiple operators in the marketplace and prevent the creation of monopolies. This bill builds off of legislation passed during the 2023 legislative session, which authorized the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Commission to identify and license independent evaluators to evaluate and rate sports wagering content. With that, I'd like to request a favorable report on Senate Bill 970. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good job. Are there questions? There are no questions. Thank you. That concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 970. Is Senator Watson with us? Last but not least, Senator Watson. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good to see everybody here. Senator Watson, representing the 23rd Legislative District, here to present Senate Bill 855. Colleagues, I'm pleased to ask your support for Senate Bill 855, Internet Gaming and Online Bingo. And as before, let me give the committee a quick summary of where we are. Last time I presented an iGaming bill, I spoke about the impending fiscal challenges we face and the potential impact to our commitment to funding to the Blueprint for Education if we did not take advantage of the projected $1.65 billion in tax revenue over a 5-year period. The Spending Affordability Committee was told we have to deal with a $2.3 billion shortfall next term. The gap widens to $3 billion in 2029, and by fiscal 2031, the gap is projected to be $4.1 billion. And I don't have to remind you, remind this committee of the potential impact of settlements associated with the Child Victim Act. But this committee is well aware of all of this. The question is, are we ready to act? So before I go into the specifics of the bill, let me go back to the definition of iGaming. iGaming is a digital platform that allows individuals to play various casino games over the internet. These platforms provide a wide range of games typically found in traditional brick-and-mortar casinos, such as slots, poker, and table games like blackjack and roulette. The games are designed to simulate the experience of playing in a physical casino with realistic graphics, sound effects, and gameplay mechanics. Maryland boasts 6 brick-and-mortar casinos, each of which significantly contributes to funding our education trust fund. But if we want them to do more, we have to give them the tools. We are still missing the 4th leg of the casino stool, iGaming. And we are fortunate to have our top 3 casinos with extensive, successful experience with iGaming. We have MGM, the nation's top grossing casino outside of Las Vegas, Maryland Live, which operates iGaming through its casino in Pennsylvania, as well as the Horseshoe. So where are we? 2 years ago, I presented Senate Bill 267, a bill which outlined a framework for iGaming, and it was this committee that commissioned a study through our Lottery and Gaming Commission to examine some of the key aspects of iGaming implementation to include potential revenue, market estimates, Maryland's current illegal market, responsible gaming, consumer protections, multi-jurisdictional gaming, and other aspects that I will leave to the experts to discuss. Let me describe the fundamental aspects of this bill. To capture this new revenue, there must be a referendum and the question must be approved by the voters. The State Lottery, Gaming, and Control Commission will regulate iGaming to the same extent that the commission regulates the operation of the state's casinos and facilities. Within the bill, and to the extent permitted by the state, maximize the ability of minorities, women, and minority and women-owned businesses to participate in the iGaming industry, including through the ownership of licenses to conduct internet gaming. This provision is very important and supports the governor's desire to support and increase the participation of MBEs and economic growth within our state. Expected revenues, $250 million per year, or about $1.25 billion over 5 years. Who gets a license? Every current brick and mortar casino, and those who have qualified for a sports wagering license may get an iGaming license. A Maryland business in the state for at least 10 years who has been pre-qualified by the commission and willing to spend at least $5 million to build and operate a live gaming casino or a studio for television and film productions in support of the Maryland Film Office. And an additional license to any current VLT operator who agrees to partner with a social equity applicant, as defined in the bill, who demonstrates at least 33% ownership in a joint venture. Last year, we found that we inadvertently excluded bingo halls. Under this bill, the commission may issue an online bingo license to a commercial bingo operator if requirements are met. However, the bingo operator cannot apply for an iGaming license, only a bingo license. License fees, $1 million for an iGaming license, $500,000 if the applicant is offering only live dealer games, $500,000 if the license is issued to a majority minority-owned applicant or a joint venture, $250,000 for a live dealer games only in a joint venture, and $500,000 for online bingo license. The term of the initial license is 5 years, as well as renewal, and the renewal fee is 1% of average annual proceeds for the preceding 3 years. Where does the money go? 1% to the commission for regulatory activities, something that was not done with sports betting. 1% to the problem gaming fund, something that was not done in sports betting. 5% to county governments for education based on the county's current fiscal year enrollment count. And that's about 23 million to Prince George's County. Up to 10 million for the video lottery facility employee displacement fund. This special fund supports any employee that is displaced by the implementation of iGaming. The remainder goes to the blueprint. For online bingo, 1% to problem gaming, 1% to the commission, the rest to the blueprint. After distributions, the licensee retains 80% of iGaming proceeds from live dealer games and 60% from all other internet games. All remaining proceeds go to the blueprint, who's authorized to play individuals 21 years of age or older who have verified age and identity. What protections have we discussed? There are privacy protections built into the legislation where personally identified information cannot be shared with third parties without permission. Data is protected, prohibits targeted advertising to individuals who are prohibited or at risk or engaging in false or deceptive advertising. It supports specific measures, including controls on a player's activity. The player, after establishing an account, can set up controls to limit the amount of money deposited within a specified period of time. And if predefined levels are exceeded, the account can be suspended. And let me point out that none of these can be done in a brick and mortar facility. I've added the provision that the 1-800 number for problem gaming must be displayed to the user when he or she logs on and logs off. I've added the provision that the user must certify that they've read a disclosure identifying the risks associated with gaming before an account can be opened, and the user must recertify that they've read the disclosure on a monthly basis for continued access. The bill restricts the use of credit cards, similar to lotto purchases. Transactional data and metrics related to iGaming will go to Morgan State, where the data will be analyzed and used to determine trends and to give us additional information for game improvement, protections, and in general relating to curbing problem gaming. The bill allows the governor to enter into agreements with other states, specifically the multi-state internet gaming agreement. Operating much like Powerball or Mega Million, these states participate in iGaming, have realized that larger jackpots can be created quicker, generating more tax revenue for participating states by aggregating players. And as stated earlier, the legislation authorizes live dealer games and live dealer studios within the state. In other words, this bill brings jobs. Now, illegal gaming exists. The platforms exist often offshore, unregulated, no consumer protections, no spending limits, no self-exclusion rules, no responsible gaming safeguards. And when something goes wrong or when your money disappears and when behavior becomes harmful, there's no one to call to get help. Meanwhile, not $1 of the projected $200 million spent illegally comes back into our state to support our schools, police, infrastructure, or our addiction services. So the question is not whether or not iGaming exists, because it does. The question is whether or not we'll regulate it responsibly, or will we keep pretending that prohibition is working when it clearly is not. What this bill does is simply modernize the delivery of games that already exist, the same as we did with sports betting a few years ago. And like sports betting, the data from other states is clear that when we legalize and regulate online gaming, players move away from the illegal sites into safe, regulated platforms. So what has changed from the last time I introduced this bill? One word: Virginia. What did they do? They asked a simple question. New Jersey has generated over $1.5 billion in additional tax revenue since forming iGaming since 2017. Why not Virginia? Michigan has generated over $1.5 billion in additional tax revenue from iGaming since 2021. Why not Virginia? Pennsylvania has generated nearly $2 billion in additional tax revenue from iGaming since 2020. Why not Virginia? And after reading this, what I say, now that Virginia has come along, and now their iGaming legislation has passed both chambers, the question is, why not Maryland? What else did they do? They did research over a 3-year period. And what did they find? And before I tell you what they found, let me tell you, when they were debating iGaming, they had the same folks behind me who are going to sit up here and be in opposition over in Virginia. And what did Virginia find? They found that online casinos have a positive impact on land-based casino revenue, gross gaming revenue. Online casinos attract different consumers compared to land-based casinos. There is typically a boost in casino revenue by 1.7%. The majority consensus from results studies conclude that iGaming expands the overall gaming market and increases the growth rates of overall gaming revenues because iGaming is a complementary, distinct gaming vertical to land-based casinos. And finally, in Pennsylvania, where Cordish happens to have a casino and iGaming, gaming revenues in Pennsylvania were stagnant before the introduction of iGaming as part of an omnibus gaming bill. iGaming revenues increased by 22%, retail slots increased by 5%, retail table games revenue increased by 7%, overall gaming revenue increased by 10%. The bottom line, iGaming is complementary and additive to land-based casino gaming. Now, iGaming legislation, as I said, has passed both chambers in Virginia. A separate bill that they also have passed, or are in the process of passing, must go to referendum, which allows a new casino in Fairfax, Virginia. What does that mean for us? 1/3 to 2/5 of MGM revenue comes from Virginia. That's approximately $300 million of direct impact. That is what cannibalization really, really is. That is what Virginia is set to do to us. And their senator who passed this bill was explicit in saying, I'm tired of seeing Virginia revenue go across the bridge to Maryland. Now you're going to hear about the problem gaming. I've addressed that. You're going to hear about cannibalization from Live and the Cordish companies who operates iGaming in Pennsylvania. We've addressed that as well. And Virginia took their action to move forward. And let me say, Virginia is so tired of revenue coming here, they amended their iGaming bill to exclude Maryland Live from participating. And not only them, but only casinos licensed in Virginia can operate online platforms, and that way they ensure tax revenue stays in Virginia rather than flowing to Maryland operator. In short, iGaming is a proactive measure to grow and sustain revenues and to minimize the estimated $200 million spent in the illegal gaming market and to remain competitive. This is the only bill introduced this session to generate a new revenue stream. The only bill to generate a new revenue stream. And let me just talk about the existing policy directive that I mentioned before. Current law states as follows: the Commission, Lottery and Gaming, shall conduct studies of the state lottery and gaming program to analyze the gaming industry within and outside the state to determine whether Maryland's gaming program is competitive and maximizing revenues for the state. Colleagues, I tell you, we are not doing our job. This is clear and it's in statute what we're supposed to be doing, and now is the time to act. We can't just look at new revenue, we also have to look at sustaining existing revenue, and this is an imminent threat to the revenue that we produce through our casinos here in Maryland. Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks. I do have some folks here that I'd like to come on up and be a part of the panel to answer some questions and to give some additional testimony, if that's okay.
It's definitely okay if you can invite your panel to come up. But I just wanted to be sure, my conclusion from your testimony that you would like us to give a favorable report.
I would love for you to do a favorable report.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is Mr. Pappas here? Come on up, John. First, Mr. Pappas.
Terrific. Please proceed in whatever order you'd like.
We'll start with Mr. Pappas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is John Pappas, and I'm with the iDevelopment and Economic Association. This is now the 4th year in a row that I've come before this body to discuss the iGaming opportunity. And every year, the opportunity becomes that much clearer. So what's changed since the last time we met? First, the states around Maryland that have chosen to legalize iGaming continue to break record revenues for their overall gaming industries. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware are seeing sustained growth year over year, with online casino gaming generating hundreds of millions in new tax revenue while also strengthening their existing land-based casinos. At the same time, though, Maryland's land-based casino revenues have declined year over year, which means less money flowing to education, local aid, and responsible gaming programs that depend on those revenues. As acknowledged already, some companies that will testify today oppose iGaming, including Cordish and Churchill Downs, but they are already benefiting from it. Through their operations and partnerships in Pennsylvania, these companies generated more than $83 million in revenue from regulated iGaming in the trailing 12 months. 83 million, yet they're going to stand here today to say they oppose it for Maryland. Finally, I want to leave you with this thought. Across the country, lawmakers are debating how to protect consumers online from social media and various digital platforms. Oftentimes, they are facing resistance from the tech industry to impose these restrictions. Yet, here today, you have an industry that is doing exactly the opposite. The regulated gaming industry is coming to you asking for guardrails before the product is even offered. We're asking for strict age verifications. We're asking for ways for consumers to transparently and easily limit their time and their spending. And we are asking for real-time monitoring tools designed to promote healthy play. No other online industry approaches policymakers asking for this level of built-in consumer protection. I encourage you to support this legislation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Maloney, president of the Sports Betting Alliance. Our members, FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, Bet365, and BetMGM operate legal, regulated online sports betting platforms and online casino games across the U.S. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of SB 885. Beyond the clear benefits this legislation would deliver to our state in the form of increased consumer protections and hundreds of millions of dollars annually in tax revenue, this legislation will effectively extinguish a cast of predators sitting offshore and targeting Marylanders with illegal and unregulated games. That's what I'd like to emphasize today. We must recognize this reality in our state. A large and growing illegal, unregulated market is aggressively targeting the citizens of our state with online casino games. A quick search online produces professional-looking platforms available to anyone, often without meaningful age or identity checks. Estimates demonstrate billions are wagered annually in Maryland on these sites that provide no enforceable consumer protections, no self-exclusion safeguards, and no accountability. Some of the enforcement actions discussed here today are a step in the right direction, and we applaud the committee and support the committee and the lottery in pursuit of those actions. While we must ban these sites and enforce the law against them, doing so alone will not make them go away. Please understand that we must meet this challenge with a durable and sustainable legal regulated market for online casino gaming, which in the end is the most powerful disinfectant to the scourge of these companies targeting our state. With respect to this bill, it establishes safeguards that protect consumers. It helps foster a diverse and competitive market through specific requirements for social equity ownership. And then finally, it will deliver that much needed revenue. Maryland has built a thoughtful regulatory framework for online sports wagering, and we can do the same here with online casino games. I'm pleased to advance this commitment and work collaboratively with this committee, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Lamardo with MGM National Harbor. Pleased to be here today in support of Senator Watson's bill. What I'd like to talk about is the opportunity for the state and the industry. Last year alone, iGaming did in the 6 or 7 states that it was illegal about $11 billion worth of revenue. you're looking at, as Senator Watson said, upwards of $1.5 billion over 5 years for tax revenue for the state. And the fact of the matter is, as you've heard from my colleagues up here, is that illegal gaming is already here. You see it in the form of online or offshore sweepstakes operators that offer the same games that we offer at our brick and mortar casinos. So from our perspective, they have we know they have no responsible gaming protections compared to our industry that has time limits, deposit limits, wager limits, mastheads on responsible gaming. We train all our employees on responsible gaming through both internal training, but through lived experience, people coming in who have suffered from gambling addiction, talking to our employees about the issue and the importance of being able to recognize the signs. And lastly, what I'll say is, from a brick and mortar perspective, we operate brick and mortar casinos where in 2 states that have iGaming, that being Michigan and New Jersey. And for us, this is accretive. We have seen in Michigan, I believe, about 7% guest increase. So for us, this is a way to bring more people into the property, reach further into the states, and people come in who have never been to the property before. In fact, to the tune of about 20%, we've seen an increase of new visitation based on people that have experienced the games online. And at the end of the day, you will never be able to replicate the experience that you get a brick and mortar casino online. And this is accretive to the overall brick and mortar industry and modernization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senators. My name is Joe Tyrell. I'm the Regional Vice President for Government Relations for Caesars Entertainment and Horseshoe Baltimore. A lot of people know about our property in the city of Baltimore. We're over 750 employees. 44% are women, 77% are minority team members, of which are 143 are management positions. We also operate the Caesars Mobile Sportbook, which is 30% MBE owned. And as most know in this committee, we have a significant investment, not just at the casino, but also on Warner Street, with investments with Topgolf and Paramount Theater and a future hotel development. So we are vested in the brick and mortar business. However, we are on bended knee here to ask for an appendage to our building, and that includes iGaming. My colleagues who are here, all 6 of us in Maryland, all 6 casinos. I know the senator mentioned the top 3. But including Penn National or Churchill Downs, which operates Ocean Downs, and even Rocky Gap, all 6 of us operate iGaming in other states. We could flip a switch and drive revenue today. And there could be an argument about referendums, whether or not we need one, because the voters already approved VLTs and tables for the 6 casinos here. But I'm not going down that road. I think what's important to understand is, if we are able to sit here and talk about revenue generation for the Budget Committee, saving things for local, like the Baltimore, the BDC, South Gateway Partnership, we are tied to drive revenue for the city, for the state, and our partners. And more in particular, when you look at apps like Prescott Downs Casino, owned by Churchill Downs, or if you look at Live, when they have their live dealer right here, those are jobs. Those are union jobs. And we could do that here in Maryland.
Thank you. Are there any questions for members of the panel or for Senator Watson? Thank you all very, very much. We have a few more witnesses. Sushant Sid, Quorum Askew, David Wilson,
Please.
All right, good afternoon, Vice Chair Rosapep and members of the committee. My name is Cameron Askew, and I'm one of Governor Moore's appointees and the Legislative Director for the Maryland Youth Advisory Council. And I'm here today on the Council's behalf to testify favorably on Senate Bill 885. In the 2026 fiscal briefing provided by DLS, we learned that the Blueprint Fund is facing insolvency issues as early as fiscal year 2028. This legislation, through an iGaming referendum, starts to address that gap directly, providing an estimated $265 million to the Blueprint Education Trust Funds by the program's market maturity as it goes through fiscal year 2031. As the state faces more difficult budget decisions every session, I think we have to start considering long-term revenue streams that protect public education. Through this additional funding source, Senate Bill 885 ensures that the state's commitment to the Blueprint and other education obligations does not increasingly obligate general funds to cover projected deficits. In turn, this prevents public education funding from competing with other important state obligations, and we respectfully ask for a favorable committee report on Senate Bill 885. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sushant Sid from Capital Strategies here in support of Senate Bill 885. I'd like to first begin by thanking the sponsor. He's been just incredibly accessible, open, upfront about his bill, and also willing to entertain new ideas on iGaming, particularly his stance on bingo. First, I want to, on behalf of Evolution Gaming, a leading provider of online casino solutions, we are supportive of Senate Bill 885. Again, sponsor amendments, we appreciate that very much in kind of clarifying some language in the bill. Evolution believes that iGaming will only serve to complement bricks and mortar casinos and not supplant them. We believe, or we anticipate, 700 new employees in Maryland in a Maryland-based studio. As we witness in other states, we believe that iGaming is a net positive for job creation. And these are good jobs. They're unionized, $20 an hour entry salaries, paid training, health benefits, unlimited tips, and opportunities to advance to management. Also, as has been mentioned before, iGaming is already conducted in Maryland. It's just done illegally, and we're not receiving the revenue benefits. So we do believe that Maryland should take a very hard look at what is happening and unrealized revenues. Switching gears, I want to comment on the iBingo provisions of the bill. We do appreciate the sponsor recognizing how important bingo is to the state of Maryland, but our bingo halls, it's Delta Bingo in Laurel, Delta Wasons Bingo in Wasons Corner, and Abner's Bingo in Chesapeake Beach. We believe that we should be eligible to offer iGaming as well, not just iBingo, but iGaming. In fact, Delta Bingo actually operates iGaming in Ontario, Canada, so they have a demonstrated track record in terms of offering these options. So again, we'd like the bill to add more operators to iGaming, and with that, urge a favorable report.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. And I think I told David Wilson. Okay. I'll just get down the list of who I haven't. If you can come up here in groups of 5. Catherine Roberts. 6 chairs. There's 6 chairs. Okay, we'll do group of 6. I only saw 5. Okay, 6. Go for 6. Good catch. So Catherine Roberts, Ken Maxfield, John Lacey, Michael Colomino, and William Hinman, and Oliver Berry. I think I count to 6. And if figure out who wants to begin. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chairman, members of the committee. You may remember my testimony from an earlier bill. Just to recap, my name is Michael Calomino, and I am a severe gambling addict in recovery. I should have mentioned in the previous testimony that thanks to Maryland Center of Excellence and all the other assistance I have not placed a wager in almost a year. You may also remember that misappropriated funds from my business to the tune of millions in dollars. This is one thing I did not mention. I will soon be pleading guilty in a federal criminal prosecution. It's likely I'll spend the rest of my life in prison, and my wife may be homeless and penniless. The casino should have stopped me from gambling once my losses approached my net worth. However, there are no laws requiring them to do so. This is being aggressively addressed in House Bill 1453. But as a gambling addict, I can state with conviction that an increase in accessibility and convenience of ways to gamble is like pouring gasoline on a fire. I did not have a gambling problem until a casino opened 25 miles from my house. Imagine what the convenience of online casinos would provide to the gambling addict and potential gambling addicts, being able to make a wager from the comfort of their homes, especially on the other end of the couch, their spouse, not realizing that they're not going on vacation this year, or worse, their house is about ready to be repossessed. In short, this bill will create more gamblers and therefore create more gambling addicts. So far, it's all been about dollars and cents. This is really about people and protecting the citizens of Maryland. Gambling addicts exist, they will continue to exist, and they will only be fueled by an additional method of gambling and the convenience and accessibility. I believe, if my research is correct, there are only 7 states that allow online casino gaming. That means there's been hundreds of people, hundreds of lawmakers that have voted against this type of online casino gambling. That should be a big red flag.
Thank you.
I urge an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 885.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sorry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Catherine Roberts. I'm a second-year Master's of Public Health student and member of the Student Advisory Committee for the Maryland Collaborative at the University of Maryland, and I'm committed to reducing substance use and gambling-related harms among Maryland college campuses. I'm here to testify against Senate Bill 885. Young adulthood is a critical period for exploration and susceptibility of participation in high-risk behaviors such as gambling, as the brain has not matured, more specifically the frontal lobe, which is responsible for executive functionings related to impulse and emotional regulation, in addition to decision-making capabilities. The period of brain development during young adulthood is a predictor of participating in high-risk gambling. Additionally, gambling participation at a young age has been found to increase the risk of substance use and mental health issues, where the prevalence of mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts or behaviors among young adults have risen considerably in the past 2 decades, and lost productivity as a result of these mental health disorders during this stage pose a significant psychosocial and economic burden. Several external factors, or what's considered to be the 5 A's, contribute to this categorization of young adults as a high-risk population. The availability of gambling opportunities, accessibility and social normalization of participating in gambling has increased due to continued legalization of online betting and the promotion of gambling-related activities to exposure to targeted advertising. The increased access to newfound funds and autonomy over spending decision during a critical age of exploration and development. Internet gaming has the potential to increase availability, accessibility, and normalization of gambling among Marylanders, inherently lowering perceptions of gambling harms among an already high-risk population if legalized. Considering the further accessibility of internet gaming provides and the associated harms that are expected to worsen among young adults, I urge an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 885.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and to the rest of the committee. My name is Ken Maxfield. I am a researcher with Unite Here International, representing Local 7 today. Local 7 is Unite Here is the largest union of casino workers in the U.S., representing over 100,000 members who work in casinos in Los Angeles, Atlantic City, throughout the country, including here in the state of Maryland. Local 7 proudly represents workers at the Horseshoe Casino in Baltimore, Ocean Downs Casino in Worcester County. Our sister local, Unite Here Local 25, represents workers at the MGM National Harbor in Prince George's County. I'm here today to strongly oppose the legislation on iGaming and to share the union's direct experience with job loss and iGaming stats. Over the past 6 years in New Jersey, internet gaming revenue skyrocketed from under $500 million to $2.9 billion annual, a 503% increase. Over the same period, the number of jobs lost in Atlantic City casinos fell by 20%. According to the reports of the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement. In Michigan, our union has seen an even more dramatic loss in casino jobs. In 2009, our union had 2,796 members working in hotels and food and beverage jobs at all 3 downtown Detroit casinos. In 2021, Michigan launched iGaming. By 2025, we have 1,767 members at the same casinos, a loss of 1,029 casino jobs, representing the Unite Here in Detroit, a 36% decline. Less than 5 years after implementing iGaming, Detroit casinos now have more revenue for casino gaming online than in person, a rapid and radical change in the industry. Our members work in hotels and food and beverage jobs and casinos. They are housekeepers, servers, bartenders, cooks, dishwashers. These positions make up most of the union jobs in the industry and are completely dependent on in-person customers. When Maryland voters approved casino legislation in a statewide referendum, we voted to favor based on the promise that the industry will create good jobs. Legalizing iGaming will put these jobs at risk. Our members cannot face lost hours, lost tips, or layoffs.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is John Lacey, and my son is a gambling addict. I am here to urge an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 885. 4 years ago, my 35-year-old son switched from his addiction from alcohol to an addiction to gambling. He started going to casinos, and then he went on to other gambling venues. Danny has no off switch when it comes to gambling. It has turned his life upside down. When he starts gambling, he continues until it's all gone. I am hoping we will not make access to gambling even more convenient to this devastating addiction. I am hoping not to see even more advertising gambling as an attractive and fun activity. I can't tell you how many times he has confessed he just lost his entire paycheck to gambling. Just this past fall, my son was homeless, living in a car. I had to kick in tough love. I could not continue to support him and let him live off of me and his stepmother, so he had money to gamble. It's just time to have him figure it out. This internet gaming is only going to add fuel to the fire. If internet gaming is approved, my son will just have to pick up his phone, just pick it up, just like that. Easy peasy. Without thinking it through and the, what he has to do, what it's going to do to his life, and instant access to internet gaming. The frantic call, Dad, what have I done? Legalizing internet gaming will only add fuel to this fire. Mr. Chair and members of this committee, I urge an unfavorable report on Senate Bill 885.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Will Himman, and I'm the peer supervisor at the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. I come before you today to oppose Senate Bill 885 as a person in recovery whose family was negatively impacted by internet gaming and who assists Maryland residents whose families have been negatively impacted by internet gaming. And I agree, there are offshore illegal ways to iGame, which I was introduced to. But the iGaming, the illegal games, don't spend $2 billion a year marketing and advertising these games, which definitely attracts a new revenue source, But is that the kind of revenue source we want to attract? We've already seen with sports gambling, it's created new problems. I love my family, but the mental obsession of having a casino in my pocket was simply too overpowering because it was everywhere I went. I remember being completely consumed with online blackjack on our last family vacation to Ocean City, which started a string of marital problems. I remember being consumed with it in the waiting room at the doctor's office and any other time I was bored. The final straw with my wife was when I turned our master bathroom into my smoking internet lounge, where I would sit on the toilet with the seat down all night and play internet games. And I remember at 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke my wife and kids up after getting my first big win, and she was fed up. I went down the next morning to set up to play my iGaming, and I had a note next to the computer saying that she wanted a divorce. I've worked with Maryland residents who can't even trust their kids or their spouses to go in the bathroom because they don't know if they're in there blowing money. I've worked with the Maryland resident that lived in Montgomery County that used to travel across the Pennsylvania line, and on one occasion, he lost so much money he couldn't get himself to come back. He was living out of his car in the parking lot of a gas station. You know, what would this create if we were to legalize this in Maryland? We've already seen the devastation with sports gambling. I strongly urge a unfavorable report to Senate Bill 885. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. Thanks to all of you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Nope. Thank you all very, very much. We have some more witnesses. Oliver Berry, Mark Stewart, Kenneth Crawford, Sarah Price, Donna Edwards, and Jessica Wellman.
Oh, there's a chair for me. Okay. Go ahead and start. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and honorable committee members. Sarah Price again on behalf of the Maryland Retailers Alliance in strong opposition to this proposal. We have very serious concerns about the impact that this could have to Maryland's tourism economy and to the communities that depend on the revenue that comes from the brick and mortar casinos within Maryland. There are 10 of Maryland's Main Street communities that are within very close proximity to existing casinos, and 15 more are along the major highways leading to some of Maryland's top casinos. These communities benefit greatly from the sort of spillover tourism that comes from having these entertainment centers nearby. And we already know that there is an anticipated cannibalism rate of at least 10%, specifically from the casinos, but we do feel that the potential small business effect noted in the fiscal note is frankly inadequate, that it is not anticipating the impact that this would have on the hospitality industries that are in these communities that depend on the activity generated by the brick and mortar casinos. So for these reasons, we would urge an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Mark Stewart for the Cordish Companies and Live Casino. iGaming is fundamentally different because of the smartphone. It is engineered to be addictive. The games are also designed differently, and on top of that, the entire business model is to keep people in the app as often and as long as possible. Constant push notifications, bonuses contingent on excessive play, and more. The Sports Betting Alliance has testified in other states that they want people in the app 10 times a day or more. The results are predictable. iGaming is 10 times more harmful than traditional forms, skyrocketing problem gambling, crushing debt and financial strain, family disintegration, and underage gambling. There is no evidence in the conduct of online sports betting or the few states that have iGaming that so-called safeguards can fix it. Pennsylvania and New Jersey both have problem gambling rates that are 3 times the national average. Helpline calls are up hundreds of % in all 7 states that have it. Treatment intakes in Pennsylvania are up 115%. USA Today reported this month, or I guess it was last month, on thousands of instances where minors are betting online on legal sites. In Ohio, DraftKings alone took 620 bets from minors, totaling over $2.7 million in a single year. I could go on. There are no safeguards, nor will iGaming shrink or stop the illegal market, just the opposite, it grows. In Pennsylvania, 7 years after legalization, the number of residents betting online on illegal sites nearly doubled. iGaming will cost thousands of jobs here in Maryland. There's no net tax revenue benefit when you consider cannibalization at 16 to 26%, the harm that ripples through the economy from lost jobs, and the massive increase in social costs.
Thank you.
We respectfully urge no favorable report.
Hello, committee members. Jessica Wellman with the Campaign for Fair Gambling. Usually when our group appears before a legislative body, we point to the problem gambling rates Mr. Stewart just referenced in online casino states, Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They sit around 6%, which is 3 times the national average. To be frank, without regulated online casinos, Maryland's statewide problem gambling rate already rivals that at 5.7%. If you legalize online casinos, you're all but guaranteeing that Maryland will have the highest problem gambling rate in the nation. This isn't an issue that just impacts a small fraction of people. For every person dealing with problem gambling, there are 6 other people whose lives are negatively impacted, including spouses and children. Using that rate, that means nearly 770,000 Maryland residents are already dealing with gambling-related issues. Maryland's African-American communities will pay an outsized price. The problem gambling rate amongst African-Americans in Maryland has increased over 250% in the past 2 years and now stands at 10.9%. Research indicates that this behavior starts young, with 24% of African-American youth partaking in gambling and doing so for higher amounts of money than their peers. Proponents will tell you the way to defeat the black and unregulated market is by legalizing the industry. However, as Mr. Stewart pointed out, Pennsylvania has only seen black market activity grow. If you want to do something about the unregulated market, there is a vehicle to do so. It is SB 652. New legal states will not stop minors from gambling. I also saw the USA Today story that reported the millions that minors are betting on regulated sites. These are the same operators that want to offer online casinos using the same so-called safeguards to block underage players from their sites. They are also the same operators currently being sued by the city of Baltimore and Mayor Brandon Scott. In a state where people of color make up a majority of your residents, it would be a crucial and deadly mistake to add another form of gambling with the predatory and addictive characteristics online casino possesses. I encourage an unfavorable report on SB 885.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Crawford, and I work for the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling, and I am a peer support specialist. So I've battled addiction problems, and especially with gambling. I didn't start late. I used to go to the brick and mortar games earlier in my life, and I didn't have the access to that we have now. There's no doubt in my mind if I had this kind of access that we have now, it would have been really bad earlier on in my life. I've witnessed my mother lose everything. I've witnessed her going through a couple divorces because of gambling. I've seen her lose her house. My family takes care of her now. It's what I do for a living. I help people. I work the Eastern Shore area, and I've noticed the people that are younger. I used to get mostly brick and mortar type people that have gambling problems. Now, mostly all my help seekers are under 35 years and under, mainly due to sports gambling. I really oppose this bill. With gambling too, also, I mean, we already have gambling throughout Maryland at senior centers. I used to do presentations at senior centers. You know, and I've talked to them, and I've talked to directors there, and they say, yeah, some of them have problems. Well, seniors, a lot of the seniors, they live on Social Security, and that's all they have. When they get behind on bills, it's hard for them to catch up. And so, you know, I vehemently oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for staying so long, and also thank you for all of the iGaming bills that you have heard today and problem gaming, et cetera. You heard from the sponsors, they were talking about we can't let go of this new revenue. Well, we also can't forget what kind of impact it's going to have on current revenue. We have the receipts as the unions. There is Unite Here, SIU, which is Seafarers International, Operating Engineers, the United Auto Workers, the Food and Commercial Workers, IATSE, Teamsters, and even AFT. We are all involved at the casinos. And those are jobs that are lost. And we can prove that those jobs are lost in every state, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, et cetera. But not only those jobs, think about the supply chain. As you have less traffic going into the casinos, the brick and mortar, you also have less food supply, the beverage, food and beverage. You have less entertainment going in. You even have the janitorial supplies that are less. None of that is being considered. You did have a study done, it's invocation that you did, and they actually showed where, I've got to put on glasses, but that the casino dropped average in their base revenue by 16%. That's what they're predicting. They're also saying that Maryland's brick and mortar could lose over $340 million in gaming. And let me be clear, the Pennsylvania bills are not law. They have to come back again. We do not want their system, but they will have to come back again next year and reconsider those bills and vote them again. So there's a lot of information that's spread out there and a lot of excitement, but I ask you to give the consideration you always have. And as far as Virginia, they are booming in data centers. And we here in Maryland are saying, wait, let's study it, let's consider the environment, let's consider the impact, and I think that that continues to be the problem that we want to do here. One other thing, we talk about this on Monday nights at my labor lobbyist meetings, and the addiction counselor for the building trades literally said that alcohol addiction, drug addiction is not going to kill out our apprenticeships. It is sports gaming that is the biggest addiction. Thank you, and please give this an unfavorable.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
We have two more witnesses. Bobby Jones.
Oh, Mr. Chair, may I have a personal? All of these people have stayed here all day in support of this bill. Could we recognize the workers? Would you please stand up?
In opposition, I think.
In opposition.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your patience.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Barry is on, he's on virtual. Just so
right.
You've mentioned his name a couple times. Just wanted to make sure you knew he was on virtual.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, well, Mr. Jones.
Oh, it's Miss. It's okay.
Miss Jones, I'm sorry, my
That's
apologies.
That's all right. I was named after my dad. I'm used to it.
No, I understand. I totally understand. Thank you.
No worries. My name is Bobby Jones. Thanks again. It's my second time up. I'm the general manager at Ocean Downs Casino, located on the eastern shore of Maryland. We have 350 team members that I live right next to that will be in jeopardy should this bill be passed. We oppose iGaming in Maryland because firsthand we've seen what the negative impact can be in Pennsylvania, with a loss of 15% in revenue and 40% in jobs. We offer great jobs with health insurance, retirement benefits, great plans for them for their retirement. And we're concerned about the risk of iGaming coming in and taking that away from them. We're also very concerned about problem gambling. As you've heard, many people have come up and spoken about how it's had the impact on their lives with problem gambling, and we don't want to see that impact our community. We know that this law passes, it's not just going to affect us, but it's going to affect our community by taxes, tourism, which we rely on heavily on the Eastern Shore. So we would like to say that, finally, we will limit the ability to invest in our property to continue to grow and attract people in for tourism for the Eastern Shore. We would like to ask that you would respectfully vote no on Senate Bill 885.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Thank you very, very much. Now we'll go online to Benjamin Bodner. Benjamin Bodner online?
No, just
Okay.
Oliver. I'm
Okay.
sorry. That's what we had.
Oliver Berry. Berry, thank you for your patience.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Again, Oliver Berry here today with the National Association Against iGaming in opposition to Senate Bill 885. As submitted to this committee, the polling in Maryland is decisive. After voters learn what iGaming actually is, 24-hour access to slot machines and casino table games from a phone, 71% oppose legalizing it, including a strong majority who strongly oppose. At no point in the survey did support exceed 25%. Marylanders understand what this bill would authorize: full-scale casino gambling, available 24/7 in every pocket on every phone. Not a destination casino, not entertainment with natural limits, but constant, frictionless access. A study released just this month by the Center for Addiction Services Policy and Research finds that online sports betting already produces roughly $345 million in annual net outflow from Maryland's economy. These are losses routed through gambling apps to out-of-state operators and vendors. Expanding the same online model to casino gambling will only magnify that economic leakage. Here's the broader concern. Across the country, lawmakers are debating passing restrictions on social media because of addiction and mental health concerns tied to constant in-your-pocket access. Yet, Senate Bill 885 would embed one of the most addictive forms of gambling into that same 24/7 digital environment. We are questioning whether teenagers should have unlimited access to Instagram and TikTok, but this bill would authorize slot machines and blackjack on every smartphone. For these reasons, we respectfully urge you to reject Senate Bill 885. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Thank you for your testimony, and that concludes the hearing on this bill, and that concludes the hearings for today. So we're going to take a break and stick around. Change of plan. You're free to leave. No voting, that's the word. But Chairman Heddleman wants her subcommittee to stick with you for a couple minutes.